Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Berejnay wins on debut.
Shinaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Season 12 sees a new man. It's Shadow. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jensen is the new king of PlayStation.
From the back row of the grid, against all odds, Nicholas Lundy wins the title.
Goes past the safety car.
What has gone on here?
Fervent spin, stunning move from the Spaniard.
He's taken out Rambo. Here comes Lundy.
We're going 4 wide down to turn 1.
Oh, he's taking him out.
The champion run is complete.
Sonic to the inside.
The wins of Brazil. Absolutely sensational.
Okay, we should be on now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the WOR YouTube channel. It's finally here, the Spanish Grand Prix. I am back for the first time in about a month or something. Apologies if my Discord is also very laggy. I don't know why it's been like that. It's been like that all day. But I hope you're all well. Hope you're having a good one. I am, of course, at Danfield, and I'm being joined by the wonderful Luke Etheridge. Luke, how are you doing tonight?
I'm very well, thanks. Good evening, Dan. Good evening to everyone's watching at home. Really looking forward to the Spanish Grand Prix on a slightly different layout to what they've had before. You know, when this game came in, there were changes to 3 of the circuits. Abu Dhabi and Australia, quite major changes. Spain, quite a minor ones, which the drivers tend to enjoy. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how this works. It's a very different track towards last week. We have got a few drivers returning, including Jarno Opmeer. So it'd be great to see what he can do. His first race back from the Bay. Back from esports. Yeah, should be plenty of fun.
Absolutely, it most certainly should be. And of course, last week was around Italy, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll have a look at who came out on top there. It was Jake Benham taking victory. Of course, the young Mercedes F1 esports representative, really showing his true colours, and he did very well indeed. Carter Lundy with an impressive P2, and Will Lewis rounded out the podium. Thomas Ronhart ended up in 4th, and in 5th for Georges Nader. Jack Laverty in 6th, and White Lilac, I believe that is Manuel Biancolila, if I'm not mistaken, for the reserve. And then, of course, Andrei Tarabuki in P8. 9th for Alfie Butcher, and then Max Wiesel ended up in P10. But Jake Benham, with that victory, he's now in 2nd in the standings. We haven't got a graphic, unfortunately, for that this evening, but Jake Benham, he's in a strong place at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Obviously a slightly controversial end to the Italian Grand Prix. I'm sure everyone who follows us on Twitter, subscribes to us on YouTube, has seen with Jake Benham and Alfie Butcher doing their best Verstappen-Hamilton impression. In the end, the stewards decided there was no further action for that. Alfie crossed the line in 8th, but to make matters worse for him, Andrei Tarabuki got a couple of penalties removed. So Alfie finishing down in 9th after that, probably not too happy with how things worked out. But, you know, they were both giving as good as they got in that, and I think contact was almost inevitable. Jake will be hoping that's the end of him doing impressions of Mercedes crashes. Because let's not forget 2016 at the Spanish Grand Prix, Rosberg and Hamilton got together, and I don't think himself or Jarno would be too happy if they do an impression of that one. But they're kind of the sort of moves you might have to make around this circuit. There's 2 DRS zones, one down in towards turn 1, one down in towards the reprofiled turn 10. I do prefer driving around the track in its current layout. It's not quite as easy to overtake, though. It's not as heavy as the braking zone as it was previously. So I think turn 1's going to be even more important.
Yeah, it is not incredible around that corner to actually get an overtake. I believe it's down at turn number 10. Of course, formerly it was that heavy braking zone and then the double left-hander, but now it's just been formed into one long curve. It is a lot nicer to drive, especially in time trial, but it is very difficult to find a move. So certainly you are right about that. A lot of drivers are going to be trying to make the overtakes down in towards the first corner. Let's have a little look at our lineup today. So in the Mercedes car, I'm on the wrong tab at the moment. If I go into F1, there we are. In the Mercedes, we have Jan Ottman and Jake Benham. Red Bull is Liam Parnell, Carter Lundy. Then Ferrari is Mirko Soriano, and then someone is not in the lobby and is not someone's not spectating here. Alessio De Capo has not got in his car, so I think he's in the Ferrari. Valentin Bruffa and Rune Pedreño in the McLaren. Alpine is Xander Van Dyken and Ika Baena. Alpha Tauri is Tom Manley and Jack West. Aston Martin is Manuel Biancolila and Max Wiesel. Then Andrew Tarabuki and Tino Nalkarinen sit in the Williams. Alfa Romeo is heated up by Will Lewis and Ismail Fassi. And then the last team is Georges Nader and Thomas Ronhaar. For some reason, he's called Speed Thomas. So that's what we're going to be going with tonight for him.
Yeah, he's gone for the Speed Thomas name. He's also, if the chat is believed, he's going to be doing last to first once again. He came fairly close to it last time out at Monza. You saw from the standings, he was thousandths of a second, I think, in the end. Possibly, 1 or 2 hundredths off of getting that podium. So it'll be an interesting one to see how Ronhaar does tonight. No one with a qualifying ban, so it should mean, a slightly more straightforward to get out of Q1 for these drivers. They're only effectively going to be losing 4 drivers rather than the 5. A reminder of the rules here: it is full qualifying, and then it will be a 50% race. Sorry, that works out to 33. It's a bit of a tyre killer. On the previous Formula 1 games, this was a circuit that really took things out of the tyres just because of that long right-hand corners that we see. Turn number 3 and turn number 4 really put some pressure on the tyre, and also I believe turn number 12 as well in the final sector. So managing yourself, especially on the higher fuel loads, could be really useful.
It is going to be certainly difficult for the drivers to get the tyres in that working condition. The tyre wear typically is very high around here, and this is quite a long circuit. It's quite a slow circuit, of course, 33 laps, so it's not too large in distance. However, it is quite a long lap in comparison to what we see as some similar lap races. Of course, it's about 10 seconds quicker at Austria, but it's only 3 laps longer. So that's certainly going to cause some issues for these drivers, and we'll have to see what they do. We've got qualifying 1 up first. It of course is the 18-minute session to eliminate the bottom 5 drivers, and if you're in the top 15 you'll advance into Q2, and then from there the top 10 will advance into Q3, which will be of course the battle for pole position. We're just waiting for Jack West to load in, and then we can finally go trackside. You can get some racing action, and it's been quite a while for me. Of course I wasn't here last week. I was moving in to my university accommodation, so the background is a little bit more different to what you see. I'm no longer under my bed as well, so I think I've got an upgrade here, Luke.
I mean, yes, it's it's slightly different. We'll find out what Dan's flatmates thinks of this, and everyone else in his same block of flats when you hear all the banging on his door halfway through Q3. But hey, if they start complaining that he's being too loud, that means we've got an exciting race for you all, folks. So that's probably not going to be a bad thing.
Absolutely, and I've actually told some of my flatmates about the stream, and they're watching in the kitchen right now, which is in the next room to me. So they said they're going to bang on my door at one point, and so if you hear a loud crash, then you'll know what it is. But we're still waiting on Jack West. I'm not really sure what the issues are with him. But Luke, headed into this qualifying session, you're looking forward to this one. I feel like with all the issues at the start with the microphones not being set up and my camera for some reason being in black and white, I don't think I actually got to see hear your opinions on this circuit.
Yeah, it's a circuit that I'm used to. You know, I think people know that I've played F1 games for quite a while, and I tend to do better at the older circuits, the ones that have been around for a while. I think in Formula 1 it does suffer from the fact that we see all the testing practically done here now. I know previously they used to use Jerez, Bahrain. They've used quite a few times recently as well. They do lots of testing around here, so everyone's used to it in F1. The teams all have all the setups that they know, and it's a high downforce circuit with not too many heavy braking zones, which doesn't lead well into being fantastic for overtaking opportunities. But we know what league racing is like. Circuits that don't always produce fantastic racing in real life. Paul Ricard is always one that comes to mind, although recently the races there have been better. On the game, it produces brilliant action, and I think we'll see something like that tonight. Last season, back in season 12, I think it was myself and Chris Buxton covering that race as a one-off, and there was quite a bit of controversy between Karadzic and Brendan Lee at the end of the race, and Brendan Lee actually got a 5-second penalty, which ended up determining the destination of the race victory. So if we're going to final lap battle again, I don't think any of us can complain.
Not at all, but we've unfortunately lost Jack West from the lobby. However, that means we have loaded in, so I will bring you over to the game scene. You can see it's a little bit cloudy up ahead in Spain, so we could see some spells of rain. Very interested to see what this is, and there he is. He's back in the lobby, so let's see who comes out first. I see some activity down in the Ferrari garage. That'll be Alessio De Capua or Mirko Soriano. Who's it going to be? It is going to be De Capua, and you can see with that special Ferrari livery, of course, added for the Italian Grand Prix, and it's been put into the game. So I'm very happy to see it. I really like the yellow writing on the back.
Yeah, I do. That's my favourite part of it. That is my favourite part of this Ferrari livery. They've sort of gone back to how they used to be in the 90s. The whole team kits of Ferrari were yellow, and I do enjoy the bits of yellow on the car. I hope the yellow Ferrari writing actually stays on the rear wing. That'd be nice to see staying on the car. I wish they'd gone a bit more yellow though for the rest of it. I wish we'd have seen some yellow side pods with the obviously one-off livery in real life. In the game, we're going to have it for, I believe, a few more weeks before it gets, removed / put onto a player car livery, similar to what we saw with the Red Bull last year. So yeah, really looking forward to I like I said, I like the yellow. I wish some other teams would go for some more one-off liveries. We saw McLaren do it with a Golf livery. We've seen the Red Bull done it with the Japanese one. They generally tend to get well received. Of course, a lot of times when it happens, there's always the jinx of the one-off livery. Let's not forget Mercedes in 2019 at Germany.
Oh, that was not a good race for them. It was certainly one of the most interesting Grand Prix, I think, in recent history. So Ferrari, let's hope there's no curse on Mirko Soriano and Alessio De Capua as he is rounding the final corner. You can see he's on the intermediate tyre. We typically do see this. The drivers just make sure that all of their equipment is working and proper, and so they just do a time on the set of the intermediates, but it gets a nice little run through the circuit. So let's ride on board with Alessio De Capua as he tiptoes his way through the first chicane around this long right hander. Of course, in 2018, Romain Grosjean had that almighty spin, collecting multiple cars there, and we hope we're not going to see too much of that tonight. I hope everyone can have a nice clean race today. Is now downhill in towards the second sector he goes. I actually really do quite like this section of the circuit, especially that downhill left-hander. It's a bit of a sleeper place for an overtake. I don't think people typically try and go for a move there, but it's always good to go late on the brakes. Of course, you do lock up quite easily through there downhill, but I think it could provide us some action today. As in towards now the final sector, towards the reprofiled turn number 10. The flow is a lot nicer through here, but of course, as you said earlier, Luke, it's not great for overtaking.
No, it's not. I was talking about Ferrari going back to how things were. This is very similar to what the layout used to be, barring that awful chicane in the final sector, and I really wish they would get rid of that one, but they've done it to try and, so at least you can go through the final corner flat out. But yeah, I do prefer it. I think it has a nicer flow to it now. It's removed that awful bump on the, like chicane turn 11 and 12 used to be before this game, so it's removed that bump, makes it quite a bit nicer for the drivers. Is quite fast and flowing, but has probably got rid of a potential overtaking opportunity. The DRS round there was never really massively powerful, so as I said earlier, turn number 1 could be a fantastic opportunity. And I think, like you said, that downhill left-hander into turn number 5, especially if there's a bit of a difference in pace between the drivers, a bit of a tyre delta, it's a nice place to get one down the inside because they probably won't be able to fight back for the rest of the lap.
No, and of course the next few corners after that are actually left-handed, so you're going to have the advantageous inside line. So I think it's a good place to go for a move. I'm quite fond of it. At the moment, we're just seeing the intermediate times coming out for the drivers. The 2 Williams on top at the moment, Andrei Tarabuki and Tino now Karinen. But of course, I don't think we can really consider these to be proper flying laps. You know, in a few minutes' time, it typically gets to the 10-minute mark when drivers decide to fit on a set of the dry tyres. You can see people in the pit lane at the moment. They've all got the set of the soft strapped on as Jack West comes up towards the line at 28.8. I mean, he's slowest of the bunch, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Because everyone's going to go quicker on these times. But we are a little bit starved for action at the moment, folks. It just gives us a little bit more time to talk about how everything is and the state of league racing at the moment. And I'm glad that we still have some fantastic drivers on the grid, and it really does once again bridge the gap between the esports guys and the stars of tomorrow. And I'm really liking the look of this grid today. A lot of drivers I've not really seen on the PC platform too much. I'm looking at the likes of Mirko Soriano and Ismail Fassi. Of course, both of them I believe were on the PlayStation platform, but they've only recently come over to the PC, and I'm really excited to see how they get along.
Yeah, I believe they're sort of in a halfway house. I think both of them in other leagues and in team competitions especially, I think both of them do still do racing on the PlayStation. Obviously, in the future, well, I was saying in the future, obviously now, cross-play is the thing. Is in the future, it might be something that we see in leagues, but I think even then, the difference between the PC and the 2 consoles is too great for cross-play to really be a big feature in that term. Who knows, we might see the PlayStation and the Xbox put together. But going back to your original point, it is great to see that mix of grid. You've got drivers like them. You've got the, Max Wiesel, one of the most experienced drivers actually out there. Someone who's had pole positions in Silverstone in real life, never mind just in league racing. You've got those that are challengers and on the cusp of esports. So your Manleys, your George Nader, Ruben Pedreño, obviously Soriano was there as well. And then you've got your esports drivers, Bianca Lila, Liam Parnell. Luke Smith was meant to be here tonight, but he was a last-minute replacement. Xander Van Dijken, and obviously Tino, former esports driver. Thomas Ronhar will be seen at the back of the grid, looking forward to seeing what he can do. And of course the 2 times esports champion in Jarno Uppbeat. So a very good mix in the grid, quite a big gap in experience levels, and what, to the layman you might think, oh, there'll be quite a big gap in performance levels. The esports drivers, they're still going to have to be on it. They can't afford an off day, otherwise they could be getting knocked out very early on, possibly even in Q1 with 11 minutes remaining.
Yeah, a lot of surprises can be brought in these early sessions of qualifying. We've got an Alfa Romeo car exiting the pit lane, and that is Ismail Fassi. First time out on circuit today, just before the 10-minute mark. So we're going to finally see some dry running in that number 54 Alfa Romeo car, and I really do like the look of this Alfa Romeo livery. A lot of people are sort of half and half, 50-50 on it, as he's taking a very interesting line on his outlap here, but I'm a big fan of it. I really do like this car, and I do hope we can see it at the front of the grid tonight as in towards this turn number 5. Look at him using the extremities of the circuit. He's onto the grass there. He's really taking this tyre warm-up seriously, using all of the track possible. And so fair play to him. He's just gone through that pretty dodgy right-hander, and if you get on that curb and you're accelerating through there, and he's I don't know what he's doing here. He's having a good time.
Yeah, that was that's a very different line indeed. I think they use that in the yeah, he's just making up his own circuit at the moment. He wants to do a mixture of all the different circuits around this. Definitely trying to find some different ways of maybe heating up some of the tyres, but I think possibly trying to keep that front left as cool as possible for now. But he'll be definitely hoping over the next 77, 78 seconds that he can keep it between the white lines.
Yep, here he is now, headed down towards the start-finish line to begin his lap. The first real flying lap that we have of the night, of course, on the slick tyres, getting the run up towards the first corner, reaching speeds of up to 195 miles per hour at the braking zone through the first 2 corners, and he's going to be completely flat out through this next left. Let's see what line he's going to take. Some drivers like to keep it tight, some of them like to drift out wide, and he is the latter underneath the Emirates gantry and in towards the braking zone for this next corner, and we'll see what he can do. But he's got some traffic in the way. He's got an Aston Martin just in front of him. The Aston Martin, fair play to them, goes way off the circuit. I believe that was Manuel Biancolila on his outlap there. In towards now the second sector. Ismail Fassi rising up the hill and in towards turn number 9. This fast right-hander, very easy to run wide through here, but he's done that so nicely. DRS now opening and in towards turn number 10, the newly reprofiled corner on this game, and through in towards the final sector. What is this time going to be for Ismail Fassi? Can we see him get a time that's already good enough to put himself into the next session of qualifying? We'll find out in just 2 corners time, as through now the final chicane. Very tricky to get that perfectly, but he's done that so nicely. Through now the final corner, DRS opening up for the final time on this lap, and he comes across the line. It's going to be a 1 minute 16.867 to lay down the gauntlet for all the other drivers.
Yeah, definitely not a bad lap whatsoever there by Ismail Fassi. George Nader coming through the second sector now. He's on a flying lap as well. Of course, pole sitter from last time around. I'm just trying to see quickly who's going to be the next person to set a hot lap in this session. I believe it might be a man formerly known as Faster Racer, Valentin Bruffer, in the McLaren. Made his debut this season last time around. Did not finish at Monza. Was a bit of a nightmare for McLaren last time, but they are still leading the Constructors' Championship thanks to the exploits early on in the season of Lucas Blakely. And 1:16.809 provisionally the fastest in this session, but I think we'll be seeing times tumble more than that, and obviously others beating that time. It wouldn't surprise me if Tom Manley does. He's been one of the drivers so far this season who's been fantastic at just getting out of Q1 and getting out of Q2 with only 1 lap.
Oh wow, Max Wiesel going to the top by 0.2 of a second. 1 minute 16.673 for the Aston Martin driver. Nice time from him. I'm trying to find who we can actually catch at the end of their laps. Let's have a look at one particular Jan Ottman. He's actually in the first sector, so we'll find someone else. We've got the Alfa Romeos. Got Will Lewis coming up towards the line now. Can he go ahead of his teammate? I don't think he was on a push lap that time by Jake Benham. Just begun his run. What about Manuel Biancolila? Where's he going to go? He's going to go in towards a P6, 0.2 off the back of his teammate Mirko Soriano. Up next to the line, he goes into P3. Now we have a Red Bull car of Carter Lundy. P2 finish last time out in Italy, and he's managed to nestle himself into P3 for the time being. But up next across the line, it is the man, the myth, the legend, the 2-time F1 Esports champion Jan Ottman in towards the final 2 corners now. The Dutchman, he's got a lot of eyes on him tonight. He's got to prove that he is still at the top of his game, as in towards now the start-finish line. It's going to be a 1 minute 16.707, and he goes into P2 for the time being. Make that P3 because Tom Manley goes to the top with a 1 minute 16.612. A nice time there from the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, definitely a nice time, and I think, fantastic time by Tom Manley to get himself up towards the top as Ruben Pedreño. We had a prediction in the chat that Pedreño might get pole. This, still a long way to go from that. Still got Q2 and Q3 to go. Yeah, but a 1:16.528. A fantastic time from Pedreño. Manley in second, Wiesel in third, and Ottman in fourth. Very impressive, because if there's been one weakness on this game that has probably cost him more over other games, it has been his qualifying pace. There's definitely, we've seen in esports, we've seen in this, we've seen in other leagues, there's nothing wrong with his race pace. So if he's up towards the front in qualifying, he might be a dangerous shout for the race. But again, all he's bothered about at the moment is making sure that he gets through in towards Q2. And at the moment, the drivers that won't be getting through towards Q2 are now Karainen, Lewis, West, Baena, and Thomas Ronhaar. West and Ronhaar we know won't be improving. Now Karainen, Lewis, and Baena are yet to really do a hot lap, well, a valid hot lap on their set of soft tyres. So possible.
I think my Discord's having some problems here. Sorry, I think it cut you off right at the end there, Luke. Hopefully all is okay on both of our ends. Hopefully the stream can hear us as well. With just 4 minutes left to go in this session, Carter Lundy's quite confident he's going to make it through. He's retired in the pit lane there. We're watching Ikkebanya at the moment. Valentin Bruffer also retiring from the session, so I think drivers are beginning to get the sense that they are a little bit more safe than some other drivers. I'd say around about where Ismail Fassi is probably the danger zone, the mid to high 0.8. We'll see what Ikkebanya could do as he's in towards the final 2 corners now, and off the exit here, and he's going to chop back into the pit lane. So he's going to abandon that run, come back into the box. Currently in that drop zone in 19th position, but a 1 minute 31 26.1 is not a representative lap time. We know he's got a lot more pace in that Alpine car, so it's all gone a little bit quiet around this circuit. We only have one driver out on track. That is Tino Naukarinen in that bottom 5, and I think it'd be a big loss to see a former F1 Esports Constructors Champion crash out in Q1.
Yeah, certainly. I think last week he also crashed out in Q1, so I don't think he focuses on this game as much at the moment, just maybe trying to ease his way into it by testing himself, formally one of the best of the best. Still certainly a force to be reckoned with, on iRacing, R-Factor and other games. And on this one, I think maybe tonight trying to prove and wait and see what he could do. We've had a few people asking what's happened to Thomas Ronha. He's decided that he's doing he's going to attempt to last the first challenge. He did last the 4th last time out, so we'll see how well he can do this time. Jack West had connection issues, but did manage to get back into the lobby, but 18th's the best he's going to do, and I imagine it will be 19th. Yeah, I think I agree with you. The likes of Fassi, Biancalila, Van Dijken will just be looking over their shoulder at the moment. May not necessarily be safe on that lap time, obviously, as the track evolution comes in, as things improve out there, as drivers maybe just push a tiny bit more. And, one of the drivers we are going to expect to improve is now Kavinen, because this is his first lap on first valid lap, he hopes, on a set of the soft tyre. So expect him to improve massively, expect Will Lewis to improve massively, and expect Ika Baena to improve massively. The line he took into the pit lane, if he does that in the race, will certainly be earning himself a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's less than ideal for Ikabaina if he does that in the race, and I think he would have a fat penalty coming his way. At the moment, Tino Naukarinen on a pretty impressive time at the moment, at least on the in-game track map. He's gone purple through there. He was fighting the car off the exit of turn number 10, and he's got an Alfa Romeo just in front of him. Going to get out of the way sort of at the last second there. I would have done it a little bit earlier if it were me, but I'd imagine these F1 esports drivers and top league racers know a lot more than you and I do, Luke, as in towards now the start finish line. Tino Naukarinen is going to go into P9. Hopefully that'll see him into the next session. Let's see who else is on a time lap. Alessio Capua doesn't seem like he's on a very quick one. It's showing him up as having 3 minutes on this lap so far. If that is the case, he's certainly not going to get out of Q1. Xander Van Dijken has also just begun a lap, and Liam Parnell in that final sector. He's in a bit of danger at the moment. He's not out currently. He's in 16th position, but 1 minute 16.9. You would think if he doesn't improve, he is going to go out of this session. He's not pushing on this hot lap, so I think he's going to go with just 1 minute left to go in this session, Luke. It is going to get very spicy here today.
Yeah, it is going to get very spicy. I mean, we've got Soriano on an outlap as well. Yarno, only one in the top 7 not to retire, but I think he can certainly afford to do so at the minute. But yeah, driver's going to have to get there to find these last little improvements at the moment. Is anyone going to be able to set fantastic times towards the end of a lap? It looks like one of the drivers that is going to be the first to finish off their final ones, because he's not going to have enough fuel for another one. Manuel Biancalila coming towards the finish line. He was just ending up his outlap there. And Will Lewis, he's in the final sector, so that must mean his teammate Ismail Fassi heads towards the finish line. That is certainly good enough to get yourself through in towards Q number 2. Ismail Fassi, 1:16.470 at his home circuit. If that's how good the track evolution is, maybe even the likes of Bruffer and Lundy might be looking over their shoulder. Xander Van Dijken splits those two drivers, so he gets himself up in towards 9th position. Bruffer heading towards the finish line. No, Alessio Di Capua spins out the final corner, so we know another driver who won't be making it.
Yeah, it just leaves Will Lewis now in that bottom 5. We'll see what he can do as he comes across the line. He is only, unfortunately, there was a bit of a delay there. He's in 14th position, and I believe we've just seen Ikabaina go up into 4th place, and that puts Manuel Biancalila in at that bottom 5, and I think someone else has just jumped in there. That was the Red Bull driver of Liam Parnell. Just by the skin of his teeth, Will Lewis will survive in this session. Tino Naukarinen, Manuel Biancalila, Alessio Capua, Jack West, and Speed Thomas, of course, Thomas Ronha out of this session. I think the big name being lost here is current esports driver, Manuel Biancolillo, if he's actually going to come to the line now and prove me wrong, put Will Lewis out of qualifying right at the death of it. It's going to be a 1 minute 16.775 for Manuel, and he might have heard me there saying that it was a big loss to see him out, and he's just decided to go on and improve. We will see him into Q2. Will Lewis, unfortunately, that was at his expense. He is out of qualifying. De Capua with that spin will be joining him, as well as now Karinen, and then we never even got to see laps from Jack West and Thomas Ronhaar.
Yeah, shame for them. I said it might be a bit nervy there for Carter Lundy. 14 thousandths of a second. All he managed to get through there, the young Canadian driver. Of course, he finished second last week, and Will Lewis finished third. They're down in 15th and 16th in this session. It amazes me how quickly things can change here in the top tier of WOR. But yeah, Ismail Fassi, the fastest. He'll be very happy with that time. Pedreño, obviously, you know, one and done for him getting up towards second place. Will give him a lot of confidence, and will give him an extra fresh set of tyres, possibly to use in Q3 as well. So he could be in a very good situation later on in this session. But yeah, Lewis out. Possibly a bit of a surprise now, Karinen. Slight surprise as well. De Capua hasn't really shown a lot, unfortunately, this season, so no real surprise to see him out of the session. Jack West we didn't get to see, and Ronhaar we didn't get to see either, and he's taken that deliberate choice. But yeah, fascinating to see some different names up there towards the top. Pedreño, we've seen there or thereabouts so far this season. He's 6th in the championship. Well, Fassi, Tarabuki, Soriano, and Ika Baena not been up there too often. We'll see if that's the case in Q2, and more importantly, in Q3.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the Alpine of Ika Baena to get service, and there it is. We'll have the full classification. Then we'll get ready for Q2, of course, the 15-minute session to determine the top 10 drivers who will be fighting for pole, and of course places 11th to 15th. Let's have a rundown of your classification for this one. Ismail Fassi and Ruben Pedreño make it a Spanish 1-2 in Q1, their home circuit, and I hope they can do well. Andrew Tarabuki ends up in 3rd and 4th for Mirko Soriano, Ika Baena 5th for Ika, and then Tom Manley in 6th. We've got Georges Nader in 7th, 8th for Jake Benham, Wiesel 9th, 10th Ottmir, Parnell 11th, 12th Biancolillo, Bruffer, Van Dijken, Lundy just surviving, and then we're losing Lewis, now Karinen, Alessia De Capua, Jack West and Thomas Ronhaar. But that brings us to the end of Q1. We're about to head into Q2, and Luke, what are your thoughts on that qualifying session?
Yeah, very, you know, I don't think, like I said, a couple of surprises with those going out. Will Lewis, we certainly would have expected to be possibly a bit further up the order, but might try something different on the strategy. Impressed by Jarno, as I mentioned, you know. It's a bit hard to be surprised by someone who's a 2-times reigning esports champion, but qualifying, we've normally seen him sometimes only be 10th or 11th in Q1 after his second run. He was 10th in the end, with his first one being good enough, so looks to have had a bit more pace. Whether that's something he's been working on in the break between esports, we will have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't think we can really take too much from that about some of the drivers that will be getting knocked out in this session. A bit further down, but yeah, I'd say from the rest of the field, you've got to be on it, and that is perhaps why we're seeing everyone almost heading out there in the early stages in this session. The majority, in fact, I'll be surprised if there's anyone who's actually gone out there on fresh tyres. I imagine everyone will be on a used set of the softs from...
Yeah, let's head back over to the game scene, and you can see everyone headed out on circuit now, presumably on the tyre that they set their Q1 time on, as I'll bring up all of the telemetry, not the telemetry, but the lap data and the detail. You can see everyone is on that set of the soft compound of tyre, but of course they're not going to be as quick as what we typically see, given that there is increased wear, and that is just so they can set a banker and then have that delta. And if it is positive, there's that little psychological advantage that you're a little bit more confident on your lap when you see that you are improving, even if it's not a very strong time. I do think it actually does help the drivers out quite a lot. Let's have a look at who is first out, and it is Carter Lundy beginning his timed run. Of course, he managed to get a podium last week. He came second and only missed out minorly on Jake Benham's win. However, not a very convincing Q1 for him. I believe he just got through in 15th place, if I'm not mistaken, so he's got a lot of work to be done if he wants to replicate what we saw last week, in a bit of a slide coming out of turn number 3. That could have been very catastrophic. He was sent spearing off into the outside wall, but yeah, Carter Lundy, he's certainly got some work to be done today.
Yeah, not only a side out of turn 3 there, a side out of turn 1, but again, these laps are just to get a bit of practice, just to get that psychological edge, as you mentioned. It's interesting, earlier on I was listening to old Beyond the Grid podcast with Nicholas Latifi, and he said, you know, that's one thing that drivers can find hard to do sometimes is to avoid pushing too much. So I agree, if you do see that positive delta on your second run, it does give you a tiny bit of psychological edge and just a bit of reassurance, a nice little arm around the shoulder that you are actually doing a good job. Carter Lundy just making his way through the final section of the lap now into the Mickey Mouse 14 and 15 chicane, flat out of there through turn number 16 on towards the start finish straight, and we'll see what sort of time this is. Expect the low 117s and a 117.163 for the Canadian driver Tom Manley, though up there into the 16s on a set of softs. But again, this is just keeping themselves warm, just getting a delta time set. Final few minutes of the session is where we'll really see the quick times coming in. Though that's not bad at all from Ruben Pedreño.
No, that's very impressive on a scrub set of the tyres. He would have gone quicker if that was fresh, so certainly that is a very good lap time from him. And this could be the day that we see Ruben Pedreño really make that step up as everyone's just crossing the line, completing their laps. We see the two Mercedes in 4th and 5th. It'd be very nice to see the pair of them in towards the final parts of qualifying. Tom Manley in P3. There's quite a few drivers in the 1 minute 16s at the moment. Still very tight, but of course they are not going to be representative lap times. We're certainly going to see the times clattering down towards the latter part of this session. We only have 10 minutes left to go. Of course, it's a shorter 15-minute session through here. We're watching Georges Nader coming up towards the line now. Of course, we'll see what he can do, the Lebanese driver, into P9. Doesn't really matter at this point. Who's up next? I believe it is Mirko Soriano in his Ferrari with that special livery with the yellow details on the back of the car, and of course the yellow lettering. He's going to pull into the pit lane, which leaves Andrei Tarabuki, the last driver, on a lap, but he's not pushing at the moment. So that sees everyone's first runs of Q2 over and done with, and it is Ruben Pedreño, the quickest of the bunch by quite some way at the moment. If I just bring the gap to the leader up, he's almost 2/10 clear of Ikabaña. Of course, this doesn't really mean too much given that the times will come down later on in the session. It might be a little bit closer, but even on a scrub set of tyres, that's very impressive from Pedreño.
Oh, certainly. There's been times this season where we've seen the entire top 10 separated by just over 2/10 of a second, and here we've got Pedreño and Baena separated by just under 2/10 of a second. I mean, if you have a look, you've then got Baena, Manley, Opmea, Fassi, Benham and Parnell all on the 116.9s, you know. It is incredibly close. Apart from that Spaniard up there towards the... to get him through to Q2 once everyone starts improving on the soft tyres. I think you are going to need possibly around what he did in the first session, around that 116.5. We'll wait and see, though, what the different drivers do. Max Wiesel, he's headed out. He's doing something a bit different here, so we'll wait and see. Didn't go out in that first group with everyone else. Was quite happy just to stay in the pit lane. Now he's got a bit of clear air. Going to be the, well, he was briefly the only car on track, but Carter Lundy has now joined him. So, yeah, wanting to go out on a different strategy to everyone else should mean that you've got less danger of getting held up, although there are a few points at this circuit, especially that final sector, where if you catch someone on an outlap when you're on your flying lap, it can be very awkward to get out of the way.
Yeah, and they're not going to want to move aside because, of course, they want to prep for the beginning of their lap. So there's a little bit of a conflict of interest. It seems like Max Wiesel might catch some of that traffic. As you see, a lot of the drivers on the mini-map in the bottom right corner, they are peeling out of the pit lane. Wiesel's in that final sector. He's about to start this flying lap, but hopefully he can find himself a little pocket of clear air where he's not going to be disturbed by anyone. But I'd imagine, given just the mutual respect that all of these competitors typically do have for each other, hopefully they're all going to get out of the way, and I don't think anyone will purposefully impede what he can do as he comes down towards the first corner. Let's ride on board with him. As you can see, there's some drivers just at the apex of the first corner. If he's already catching traffic now, it's not going to be a very good omen for his laps. He's using all the curves through here. Look at that, he's catching the back of that Alfa Romeo, so close to just clattering into the rear of him, but luckily he's got out of the way. I believe that's was only one Alfa Romeo. That's Ismail Fassi, who did an alright job of getting out of the way of Max Wiesel there, in towards now the turn number 5, and he's backed off on that run. So Max Wiesel already not happy with that so far.
Yeah, I think Fassi should have seen that one coming a bit sooner, perhaps, and either slowed down a lot earlier to let Max take the inside line or sped up and pulled over to the right-hand side of the track, like we saw the Williams do, because that certainly put Max off. He's now, thankfully it happened early on in the lap, so you've not used up all your tyres, you've not used up all your ERS, you can save a bit of fuel if you need to, and Max will be going again. But don't be surprised, I think, if Max doesn't make it in towards the top 10, don't be surprised if we see that one get reported to the stewards. And normally, a report to the stewards means, if they agree with you, in qualifying for blocking, that normally means a qualifying ban. So, yeah, not a lot Fassi could have done in that exact instant. I just think in the few seconds before, he maybe should have been a bit more wise on his mini-map. But that's easy for me to say, sat here with my orange wall behind me.
Yeah, I mean, you're focusing so much on just getting your own setups right and making sure your wheels working, and the car to Lundy just come across the line to go into the 1 minute 16.6s. Very nice time from the Canadian, but as I was saying, you're sort of focusing on your own thing. Sometimes you can't always look at the mini-map, so I think that we got to show some sympathy for him there. It is a lot to manage when you're a league racer at this level. Soriano goes to the top of the 1 minute 16.4. Very nice time indeed from him there. I'm looking at, oh wow, I was looking at Room Pedroni. I should have been looking at the other McLaren. Well, nice time there from Valentin Burf, of course, a 2021 PS4 Challengers champion. It might have been 2020. I'm getting my years mixed up. Here's Pedroni headed in towards now the final corner. Of course, he topped Q1, or he was one of the top 2 drivers in Q1, but he's going to do that again. A 1 minute 16.275 from him. Room Pedroni is on fire at the moment. We saw dominance from the McLarens at the beginning of the season. They're 1 and 3 at the moment in this session. Tom Manley's just split them with an equally impressive time to Room Pedroni's. But we saw them dominating the start of the season. Even with 2 new drivers, they are still right at the top.
Yeah, Lucas Barry, Ruben Valentini, it doesn't really matter for the boys in orange at the moment. The Papaya Army and the home fans are certainly giving Pedroni that little bit of boost to get himself towards the top of the order. Opmium and Benham getting themselves in towards 3rd and 4th place. I think that time should be good enough for the top 4, possibly the top 5 to get themselves through. If I was Buffer and everyone behind, I'd be feeling a little bit nervous at the moment. Tarabuki still the only driver yet to set a time as he dives his way in towards the pit lane. So there's the first, fresh tyre hot laps that we've seen in this session. And Pedroni had a big gap after the used tyre runs. He's only got 12 thousandths of a second at the moment, but himself and Manley will be very happy with the fact that they've been able to do it again straight away, put in a fantastic lap time. They'll be nice and comfortably safe now, and just thinking about Q3 for the likes of Parnell, Van Dijk and Lundy, Baena, especially Tarabuki, who's yet to set a time. You've got to keep it clean. And Tarabuki hasn't been able to do that, which is, it's always that little bit of a danger now when you're in this situation, because Tarabuki, he can't afford to go a tiny bit off the pace. If he's a tiny bit off the pace, he'll be qualifying possibly down towards in 15th. He's got to go all out, but he's not got that banker lap to keep him nice and safe.
It's like that buffer zone that he just doesn't have at the moment, so it is certainly a worry for Andrei Tarabuki. At the moment, the bottom 5 is all a sea of blue chevrons as well. 2 Red Bulls, 2 Alpines and 1 Williams car. And we've just seen Tom Manley and Room Pedroni and Ismail Fassi all retiring, and I do think that they are safe. There's a big gap between P5 and P6. I say it's big, it's only about, what, 0.06 of a second? So it's not massive, but of course in regards to F1 esports level drivers and the very top league racers, that is a very big margin. So I think everyone from Bruford downwards has got to come into the pit lane. With only 3.5 minutes left to go in this session, the pressure is certainly going to be mounting for the likes of Parnell, Van Dijken, Lundy, Baena and Tarabuki, and then we can assume that they are going to be some of the first drivers out of the pits first, and indeed it is going to be the Williams car of Andrei Tarabuki exiting the pit lane now without a lap time on the board. He's got that extra pressure over his head. He needs this perfect lap now, but it is certainly going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, at least heading out early on. If he makes a mistake in the first few stages of lap number 1, he's got enough time to back off, save the ERS, save the tyres, save the fuel, and go for one final run in this session. But yeah, no surprise to see Bruford heading out of the pit lane as well. He might be 5 places ahead of Liam Parnell, but that is only 82 thousandths of a second. It is less than a blink of an eye between those two at the moment. I said it'd be a 116.5. I think I'm wrong with that. We had 16.4, 16.3 16-2 in the chat at the moment. Ismail Fassi will certainly be hoping that it's not a 16-2 that keeps you safe, because if so, he's going to be heading out in this session. But yeah, 2.5 minutes to go. Everyone, well, almost everyone out there on the circuit, out of those that haven't retired. Interesting to see Uppbeat heading out there as well. I wonder if he just wants to be, you know, just out on the circuit, just in case we see some massive improvements, because I can't see, you know, he'd need 8 drivers in between himself and the bottom to improve at the moment, and I just can't see that happening. But we've seen Lucas do this before, just to be out there on the circuit, just in case we do get these wild improvements, and if he's not pushing massively hard on his lap, then he can just dive back into the pit lane and not a lot lost. But it is Tarabuki. Now, final stage of the qualifying session, 2 minutes to go. Now or never for the Williams driver if he wants to get into that top 10.
Absolutely, let's have a look and see as he heads in towards the first corners now, in towards turn number 3, this long-winded right-hander drifting out wide and then chopping back over to the right. Underneath the Emirates gantry at the braking zone, and he is purple through the first sector. It's looking like good signs for Tarabuki, and is in towards now the downhill left-hander. Very easy to lock up through here. He's using, you see, the higher gears, keeping it in about 3rd or 4th. Typically we don't see drivers on this new game go down into 1st or 2nd. It just never really happens, and I think it is working for them as in towards turn number 9 now. The fast right-hander, and he's taking that very nicely. Not too much curve on the exit, and in towards the braking zone. 50.8 through here in the first 2 sectors. I think it's going to be a decent enough time if he just hooks it up in this final sector. We could be seeing Andrei Tarabuki in towards the next session and the final part of qualifying now towards the final 2 corners. Now, what can we expect from the Williams driver? Currently without a lap time on the board. He's going to set this one valid as off the exit of the final corner, opening up the DRS and to cross the line. It's going to be 5th position. He goes ahead of Ismail Fassi, and if more drivers do that, certainly the Spanish driver is going to be very worried indeed, as Valentin Bruffa trumps his teammate by 1,000th of a second. He goes to the top of the order. Georges Nader comes to the line next and in towards 6th position, and Ismail Fassi now beginning to slip down the order massively. He's down into 8th. Ikebaina has set a time only good enough for P10. If his teammate improves behind him, he's going to be eliminated, but no, it's going to be plumb last in Q2 for Zander van Dijken. Manuel Biancalila in that bottom 5 as well, but it's going to be Liam Parnell up next towards the line. He's up by a 10th and puts Mirko Soriano in at that bottom 5. The clock has now struck 0. The next one to cross the line will be, I believe, Jarno Uppbeat. Actually, he's not on a valid lap time at the moment, which means the Italian Mirko Soriano up by 2/10 could be eliminating Liam Parnell here. Now in towards the final 2 corners. What can we see from the Ferrari representative? A little bit of lag on our side of things, but he's done that very nicely. Is off the exit now. DRS wide open. Can Soriano do it? Indeed he can. It's going to be P5 for him. Liam Parnell in that drop zone and eliminated. Manuel Biancalila comes to the line and goes into P8 and puts Ismail Fassi in that bottom 5 and out of qualifying. Lundy's not on a push lap. Neither is Ikebaina, and Liam Parnell, unfortunately, it was just too little too late, and he's missed out by 16,000ths of a second. Tarabuki surviving by the skin of his teeth.
Yes, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the Alfa Romeo garage at the moment. Ismail Fassi. I mean, I thought he was safe, to be perfectly honest. He clearly thought he was safe. A few of you in the chat were a bit less sure, and maybe you should have been on Fassi's side, because that 1:16.360, not enough to get him through. Missing out by 100th of a second. As you can see why I took a bit of a pause there. Jake Benham decided, you know what, I've got a spare set of fresh tyres. I'll use them now. Why bother saving them towards Q3? Jake Benham with a bit of a psychological advantage, and psychology is oh so important in any sort of competitive environment. Benham goes faster than everyone by 300ths of a second, right at the death in Q2.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him. Why not? And I'm just looking at the gaps here. The difference between 1st and 11th, I believe, was 1/10 of a second, like 1.2 of a second. So insanely close at margins. We'll get the full classification on your screen now, and I was a little bit off. I'm sorry about that one, everyone. But there it is, Jake Benham to the top of the order, just 300ths of a second quicker than Valentin Bruffa. McLaren looking very, very strong today. They're 2 and 3, and both of them are advancing into the next part of qualifying. Tom Manley, we only saw him do one proper representative run. He's gone into 4th, 5th for Max Wiesel, Mirko Soriano 6th, 7th for Jan Otmir Biancalila in 8th, 9th for Georges Nader, and then Andrei Tarabukin in 10th. Eliminated from this qualifying session is Ismail Fassi, Liam Parnell, Ikabanya, and Carter Lundy and Xander Van Dyken. Some big names being lost here today, but look at those margins we saw. Less than 3 tenths separating 1st and 15th. And it just goes to show how close this WOR grid is this evening. And I cannot wait for Q3 to get underway.
No, certainly. I mean, earlier on we were talking about Pedreño having that massive margin at the top of the order. That gap that he had was bigger than the gap between 1st and 12th by the end of that session. So close indeed. So unlucky for those that got knocked out. But for the likes of Bruford, Wiesel, Nader, Pedreño, Manley, Benham, Otmir, Soriano, Tarabukin, and Biancalila. Now for, any of this saving things, 1 lap and done. It's not going to be that way. Now it is all about getting yourself as high up as possible here around a circuit where we've already said overtaking can be at a premium. It's time for Q3, and straight away, a few drivers heading out again with that caveat that they will be on the used tyres.
Yeah, so we will be joining you in Q3 in just a moment time. We have 12 minutes where 10 drivers are going to be battling it out for pole position. But before we head into that, here's a word from our sponsors at Grid Finder. Welcome back everyone, trackside here in the circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, where we're seeing Pedreño, the first man out on circuit on his outlap. And before we headed into the session, of course, Luke did mention this will be on a scrub set of the tyre, and just looking at this onboard shot, they do look like they have been used before. So this was the famous tyres that set the 1 minute 1 minute 16.275, which, considering how much earlier he did that in the session than the likes of Jake Benham and Valentin Bruford, this certainly is still the driver to watch in Q3. Yeah,
he's been fantastic so far in this session, but a bit of pressure off maybe. He was thinking before, I've got the pace to get through to Q1, I've got the pace to go towards Q2. Now we'll see what everyone else can pull out the bag. Obviously, Benham and Bruford did go faster, but that was on, as you mentioned, that was on a slightly better circuit with slightly better track conditions. He's throwing this car around at the moment. Don't expect this to be as fast. 116.4, 116.5. I think anything around there he would be very happy indeed with on this one set of tyres. Interestingly, not everyone heading out there early on. Wiesel has only now he's off into the wall. That could be Pedreño out. He's just avoided retiring the car there, but that is a big spin for Pedreño. How on earth did he not get any damage from that? He headed towards the wall at some pace.
Oh my, I mean, Pedreño, I think he's used up all of his luck for the rest of the month, because, he's just about survived that one there. I mean, very impressive, but I think that's going to knock his confidence ever so slightly, having that spin. Granted, this isn't a fresh set of the tyres, so this lap doesn't really matter for him, but he's not going to be able to get that representative delta that he might have wanted for his laps, and he's going to come into the pit lane. So that puts a very swift end to his first Q3 attempt. Got Andrei Tarabukin coming up to the line though, and it's going to be a 1 minute 16.490 to start off this session. A decent enough time, I'd say, on the scrub set of the tyre. Got Max Wiesel just coming out on circuit now. He's got Mirko Soriano in behind him. However, Valentin Bruford is indeed on a time lap at the moment, so we'll see what the German can do. And again, looking a little bit loose at the rear. These McLarens maybe not enjoying this circuit too much, but Valentin Bruford off the exit now, the final corner. What can he do with opening up the DRS and taking the run towards the line? It's going to be a 1 minute 16.364, a very impressive time considering he is on that scrub set of the tyre, and I think we're going to see some more laps like this. Let's see what Georges Nader can do. So he comes up towards the line. It's going to be a 1 minute 16.4 13.684. Once again, these laps, they are scrub set of the tyres, so they're not going to be as fast as they could be. But I think the likes of Jake Benham and Jarno Opmeer, they've left it a little bit later. They could be on a fresh set of the tyres here.
Yeah, they could be, and I believe both of them will still have 2 sets of fresh soft tyres, which is a bit more what you would normally do in this session. So Benham and Opmeer could certainly be ones to watch out for in this qualifying session. Now we've got Tarabuki, I think, just making his way in towards the pit lane, and then the next driver who is going to be on a lap is Jarno Opmeer, having his best qualifying session of the season so far. I mean, he's not had a bad season. You know, people always saying, oh, he's washed. He's 4th in the championship at the moment after missing 2 races, and you know, he's within 8 points of 3rd place. It's not a bad season whatsoever for Jarno. He's obviously got very high standards. He'll be hoping for so much better, and he'll be hoping that starts with this first lap in Q3.
Yeah, Max Vettel, that is the quickest time we've seen so far in qualifying today. A 1 minute 16.219. That was definitely not a scrub set of the tyres from him, but are we going to see better times than that? We'll have to wait and see. Jarno Opmeer headed in towards the first sector now, and in towards this next right-hander at turn number 4, 21.8 through there, and in towards now turn number 5, the downhill right-hander misses apex ever so slightly, using all the circuit that he is allowed to use to get the best run through here. Is now in towards this tricky left-right complex, where of course we saw Rimpadrino have that spin at the beginning of this session, just kissing the inside on turn number 9, not using too much curb so as to not spin the car at high speed. Down in towards turn number 10 now, and he's going to take this short climb uphill in towards the final sector. Jarno Opmeer, what can we expect from the Dutchman, the 2-time F1 Esports World Champion? He's a multiple-time WOR winner as well. One of the best drivers, possibly, of all time. As in towards now the final corners, what can we see from Jarno Opmeer off the exit here? DRS wide open for him, and it's going to be a 1 minute 16.172 from the Dutchman. That is more like it. That is a very nice time from him indeed.
Yeah, he's not hanging around at all, is he, at the moment? But we'll see what his teammate... Oh, Benham!
Oh,
I think it's not really... well, if he was... I don't think he was on a hot lap before. He certainly isn't now, facing the wrong way. At turn number 10 was Jake, but again, he'll have time to go out, head out on circuit one more. 5 minutes 15 left to go. We've only seen, you know, I'd argue 2, possibly 3, depending on Valentine's time. As definitely seen a very representative time there from Tom Manley. 1:16.104 from the Alpha Tauri driver. Now we're seeing a few more of these that came out later on that are just trying something different with their run plan. And why not? It seems to be working for them. Manuel Biancalila, he's now heading towards the finish line. Got points on his debut last week. 9th suggests he's on a scrubbed set of tyres on his first lap in Q3. But Manley Pedreño now, who's got into second, and Jarno Opmeer, your top 3 drivers. There's some pretty quick names down there. And of course, Jake Benham made a mistake on that lap. He's back into the pits. He's got one final shot at this. We'll see whether that mistake's affected him, because it definitely hasn't looked like the mistake earlier on has affected Ruben Pedreño.
Yeah, Jake Benham having that spin, it's not ideal for him, but luckily he didn't get any damage. Similar to Ruben Pedreño, that was a lot more scary for the McLaren driver, and I'm actually surprised how he didn't even come away with any wing damage. So Jake Benham, yeah, having that spin, it is slightly going to knock his confidence, but you know, just brush it off your shoulder. Still got 4 minutes left to go in this session. His teammate, I believe, is just peeling off into the pit lane now, so we're getting that lull period, as King Kodiak likes to call it. It's the quiet before the banzai phase. And I really do like that term, so I typically just try and use it as much as I can. With just under 4 minutes left to go in this session, Tom Manley is the quickest at the moment with a 1 minute 16.104. Are we going to see any 1 minute 15s? It's going to be very difficult to do so. We're getting so close to the point of perfection where I don't know if anyone can actually improve that much more. So it's going to be a very, very tight end to qualifying. And Tarabuki is the first of the runners to exit the pit lane for his final laps. We've not seen a fresh set of tyres strapped onto this Williams so far. Of course, we saw that scrub set run earlier and managed to land him into P6, and I think he'd be pretty happy starting here, but I know that he is going to want more.
Yeah, he is going to want more, and at least this time he's got that banker lap that he didn't have in Q2, although working under that pressure did not seem to affect him. It's effectively one-shot qualifying for these drivers, down from 5th to 10th now. They've not done a lap yet on a fresh set of tyres. They've left everything towards the end. And they seem to be able to really cope with that pressure, and that is what makes the difference in these situations. If you left these guys doing, you know, perfect laps all the time, you'd probably get lap times within thousandths of each other. It is all about nailing that lap time when it matters in qualifying, and then nailing it 33 times in the race without getting any penalties, without wearing your fuel down too much, without wearing your tyres. So much that these drivers have got to do. Obviously, they get some support from the engineers, but they've got to do a lot of this on their own. There's only one of these that are behind their rigs at the moment. There's only, you know, they are the only thing that is making any real difference. And Andre Tarabuki just warming up his tyres. What can he do in the final 2 minutes, 10 seconds of this qualifying session? Can he get himself up there with Tom Manley? I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see a 1:15.9 in this session. If we do, that will certainly be good enough for qualifying. There's not a chance in hell we're going to get 2 drivers doing a 1:15.
No, I mean, I'd be so surprised if we actually see any 1:15s. We'll see what Andre Tarabuki can do and where he will be starting. We'll find out in just under 1 minute and 50 seconds time, as in towards now the first sector split. Let's see his improvement, already up by a tenth. So it's a good start for the Williams. He was very much on the brink of being eliminated in Q2. We could see him right at the top of the order in Q3 if all goes his way on this lap. As in towards the second sector now, it's going to be turn number 6, 7 and 8 for him, and up towards turn number 9, where a lot of drivers can take a little bit too much curb on the inside or indeed on the exit and either invalidate their runs or have a monumental spin, but he has done neither of those, so it's looking good for him as he's just under 2/10 up on his previous best. I don't believe this is going to be good enough for a pole time for Tarabuki, but I think he'll be happy with the top 5 as in towards now the final sector, using all the track that he is allowed to use without invalidating his time to maximise the speed that he can carry through the corners. Off the exit now, the final corner, DRS wide open for Tarabuki, and what's going to be is going to be a 1:16.233. That is P5 at the moment, but I don't believe he's going to stay there for too long as Mirko Soriano comes up to the line. I think he might have just been starting a run there. Biancalila is up next towards the line. It's going to be 1:16.733. Not great from him. We've got one of the McLaren drivers. It is Ruben Pedreño. I don't know if it says these guys are on laps, but I think they might all just be starting their lap times here, so I'm a little bit confused as to what's actually happening. Georges Nader is certainly not on an out lap. He's gone to the top of the order. Jake Benham's just begun his final run, so we've got to watch out for Jan Ortmir not pushing at the moment, so he's going to be starting his run, Luke, with just 5 seconds on the clock. He's cutting it very fine here, but he does indeed get that lap started. Tom Manley is up next, and the clock has now struck 0, and Tom Manley is certainly on a flying lap. He's up by a tenth of a second. Where can he go? The AlphaTauri driver opening up the DRS, and we've seen a 1:15, a 1:15.898, skipping the 0.9s entirely. What a lap from Tom Manley. That is going to take some beating as Max Wiesel goes into P3. That's on the second row of the grid. He wasn't able to go to the very top of the order, but I think he did his best there. Ruben Pedreño is on a flying lap at the moment. He is really going for it. Soriano is up next to cross the line though. Let's see what the Italian man in the Ferrari can do. It is P5 for him at the moment. Decent enough. What about Biancalila coming up towards the line next? It's going to be P8. He's ahead of Valentin Bruffer, but for how much longer? Here comes Ruben Pedreño to the line. He got close to Tom Manley, but it just was not enough for him. That is going to be P2 starting for him. A very nice time indeed. Jan Ortmir though, Luke, he is still pushing.
He is still pushing. Jake Benham, 9th is the best that he can do. Not what we would have expected at all. Jan Ortmir, half a tenth of a second up, coming through sector 2. So it's going to have to be the final few corners of his life for the Dutchman. He takes 3rd position. It was a fantastic improvement in that final sector. We said we'd be surprised to see 1 in the 1:15s. We've got 3 of them. Ortmir starts 3rd, Pedreño starts 2nd, but it is Tom Manley on pole position for the 2nd time this season.
Yeah, well, Tom Manley just continues to impress. He leads the, of course, he's actually season 12 Xbox champion. I always like to mention that. He's now back onto the PC. He is starting from P1. He's starting alongside Ruben Pedreño. These two have looked to be the fastest so far in this qualifying session. I cannot wait for their battles. This is a good qualifying, I'd say, for Jarno Opmeer as well, only being 800 of a second off of the pole time. Georges Nader with a pretty decent lap. He was a little bit quiet so far in this session in qualifying and such, but he's managed to go into P4. P5 for Max Wiesel, Mirko Soriano in P6, 7th for Tarabuki, 8th for Bianco Lila, Jake Benham 9th, and Valentin Bruffer in 10th. But that brings us of qualifying, everyone. We've got a 33 lap race coming up for you here. And Luke, just before I get your opinions on everything, did we have a formation lap or not? Because I'm not too sure.
I don't believe we do have a formation lap, so we're pretty much heading straight back into back into the action, of course. Oh, well, you know, it's just to make it equal for the drivers. We've got used to them having no formation lap, so yeah, they'll be straight in towards things, just making the final few tweaks towards the strategies and towards the setup. But if I was Tom Manley, I wouldn't want to change anything at the moment. 1:15.8, absolutely fascinating, fantastic lap time. He got second place in Belgium, started from pole position. He'll be hoping to go one better today and, you know, possibly get himself back towards that title hunt. 29 points behind Benham at the moment, about 80 points behind Lucas Blakely. So still plenty of work to do with Lucas missing. It's a fantastic chance for Manley to catch up on him and for the others to do so as well.
Absolutely, we're about to get into this race. Just 10 seconds from now, we'll be commencing the Spanish Grand Prix in Season 13. Leave a like on the video, everyone, if you're enjoying. But here we are. We'll get to see what tyres everyone is on in a few moments' time. But the lights are coming on. 5 red lights here in Spain. And we are underway for the Spanish Grand Prix, and it looks to be a good getaway from Tom Manley. He's going to be able to clear Pedreño, headed in towards the first corner. What can they do is now in towards the braking zone. Jarno Opmeer having a look at the inside of the McLaren car. He's going to look down the inside, and they're going to just sneak a wheel on that inside, but he hasn't been able to do so. As look at that, Tom Manley with an excellent start. He's already 5/10 clear of Pedreño. Of course, all of them on the set of the hard compound tyres, so it is level pegging. Here's Tarabuki to the inside of Max Wiesel as he made that move stick. The Williams car already on fire at the beginning of this race, as is Jake Benham, up 2 places now. He's into 7th position from starting in 9th. He's got to look around the outside of Max Wiesel, and he's done that nicely. Max Wiesel almost actually had a spin there as Bianco Lila looking to lose some places again, and oh dear, there's a little bit of contact with himself and Valentin Bruffer. Both of them have been able to survive, and I don't believe so. Unfortunately, Manuel Bianco Lila going for a spin, as has Lundy, and we've got that is the VSC, I believe, coming out here.
Yeah, we have got a virtual safety car here there. So Lundy, he's had an issue as well. Can't see, well, I was about to say I can't see any damage on his car. He's got no front wing. So yeah, definitely not ideal for Lundy there. He'll have to change to a different set of tyres, and those mediums will not get you towards the end of the race. Expect drivers to pit around about lap 19, lap 20, judging by previous races and previous games. For a set of the medium tyres, they may, however, they've been completely proved us wrong. We've seen drivers a lot of times now going longer on the mediums than they have even done on the hard tyres. Unsurprisingly, Bianco Lila and Lundy, the biggest losers in the first lap of the race. The biggest winners, Ron Ha, Jack West, De Capua, and perhaps most importantly, Jake Benham, up 3 places up into 9th. Well, from 9th up into 6th place. It looked like Opmeer was going to gain places on that first lap. Very good on the brakes in towards turn number 1. Just never quite got alongside enough on Pedreño to really make that move stick. But he'll be happy, as I think will a lot of these front guys at the moment, that things have been at the front of the race relatively straightforward and relatively clean. It's going to be interesting now to see how this strategy works, because they're not going to get anyone doing something crazily different. Everyone on that set of hard tyres still under the VSC on lap 2.
Yeah, Bianco is coming for a set of the softs. It's going to be green flag back in the air. Lundy on the set of the medium compound of tyre, and that's helped their woes ever so slightly. Already Jack West making a move on Alessio De Capua. He is up from 19th position now into 15th, so it's been a great getaway for the AlphaTauri, and indeed just the AlphaTauri team so far, as now Karinen gets by on Thomas Ronha. We saw now Karinen actually having a spin out the final corner. Ronha's going to try and look towards the outside once again as they head into the braking zone at turn number 10, looking for the over and under. Can he make this one stick? Is it going to run wheel to wheel up the hill now, trying to hold him around the outside? I think Ronha's just about got to back off on that opportunity, but at the front of the order, Tom Manley leading from Pedreño, Jarno Opmeer in 3rd position, Georges Nader in 4th, and we are now on lap number 3 going to have DRS enabled. The first taste of that will be down towards turn number 10, so we're not going to see it just yet, but I think once we do, we're going to see some fantastic battling between all these drivers.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see some battling in towards turn number 1 there. Mirko Soriano very close to the back of Jake Benham. So, showing that he's not afraid. One of his first PC races, raced last week in WOR. Not afraid to mix it up with the esports drivers at the moment is Soriano. And that's the way you've got to be. If you give these guys an inch, they'll take a mile. And you've got to really try and be not overly aggressive. Don't want to be getting yourself penalties, but you've got to give as good as you get a lot of the time. Further down the order, we did see now Karinen making an overtake, I should say, on Thomas Wanhar. What actually happened is Wanhar got squeezed off the circuit slightly by De Capua, and that caused him, obviously, to drop down the order, as it's not been an ideal start to the race from Carter Lundy. He's caused the yellow flag again in turn number 3, but thankfully able to continue this time around. No overtakes made into the first DRS zone opportunity at turn number 10. We'll see whether that's the same down towards turn number 1 at the moment. I suspect it will be, seeing as Manley's got a 3/4 of a second gap.
Yeah, he's doing really well, extending this advantage to Ruben Pedreño in behind. But given that we're in a DRS train, it's just so difficult to find an overtaking opportunity. You really do have to get a much better run out that final corner and be right on their gearbox in towards the first corner. We'll see if anyone is able to try and make it work. Saïd Cabanya getting close to the back of Valentin Bruffer, but again, he's able to close, he's just not able to pass as they rise up the hill. You really do just have to wait for a mistake from your rival, I would assume, and then you can try and go for the opportunity. Valentin Bruffer at the moment down in P10. I believe he's lost a good few places from the start. I think he started in like 7th or 8th position, so it's not been the best start. Actually, I think he started in 10th, I'm not too sure. I can bring up the detail. Yeah, he is even, so I do apologise. You can see everyone's position gains on your screen. Jake Benham and Jack West are the biggest movers of today. We have to also look out for Thomas Ronhar, and just him, he's actually moved up 3 places. Of course, the biggest losers today so far are Bianca Lila and Carter Lundy, as we're on lap number 4 of this Spanish Grand Prix. It's certainly going to be a slugfest for these drivers, especially with that tyre. Of course, the hards, they do take a good few laps to get into that operating window where they really are at their best. But I think we're not quite there yet, especially since we spent a little bit of time under that virtual safety car. So we'll have to wait and see what happens from this race. But at the front of the order, Tom Manley still stretching that advantage from Pedreño, just keeping him tidy, just at arm's length, so he's not able to actually try and overtake. And I think he's doing a fantastic job of just controlling this race.
Yeah, that is all Manley is doing at the moment, is keeping the gap big enough, like you said, that it's big enough at the moment that Pedreño can't really challenge. But then again, Pedreño's keeping close enough that Manley's not interested in dumping all of his ERS to try and break away all of a sudden. Because of course, if Manley just dumps all of his ERS now, Pedreño's probably still going to stay in contact. And then if you're Tom Manley, you're at the front of the race with no hybrid energy and no DRS, and quite frankly, no chance of holding on to the lead of this race. It's interesting that you mentioned the hard tyres warming up at the moment. This is why we see everyone on this game starting on that set of the hard tyres, because the warm-up on them is frankly dreadful. It can take well over a lap around a lot of the circuits, whereas the mediums generally takes around half a lap. So that'll be interesting to watch out for with the undercuts. Even if the battle's not over at the end of the pit lane, it might be until you've got to around turn number 6, turn number 7 before you really know who has taken advantage on this one. And I think Manley, he may have been listening to me and may have just been trying to prove me wrong, because he's really gone for it on this lap, and he has successfully done so. He has broken the DRS window to Ruben Pedreño. This could be very interesting to see what those behind do. Is Pedreño going to react, judging by how much he burnt his battery out that final corner? He certainly is. And if Pedreño isn't able to consistently stay within that 1 second margin, will the likes of Opmia, Nader, Benham, Soriano and the rest of the pack start to put that McLaren under pressure? Otherwise, they don't. Could be a very comfortable win for Tom Manley.
Absolutely, Tom Manley doing a fantastic job just controlling this race as best he can. We saw Ismail Fassi getting close to the back of Valentin Bruffer, but it wasn't quite meant to be, as we've got a yellow flag. That's Alessio De Capua going for a spin, and he's into the gravel down at turn number 4, so his day going from quite unideal to completely down the drain. It's going to be very difficult. I think he's going to need a safety car to actually have a fighting chance at some point. I was talking about Ismail Fassi getting close to the back of Max Wiesel. Of course, both of these guys coming up from the PlayStation platform on this new game, and they've done very, very well indeed, so you do have to give your respect there. But on lap number 6, I'm wondering what everyone's thinking at the moment with tyres, because obviously they're not going to be in too bad of a condition, but you know, they are going to start to wear ever so slightly at this point. So I think it is just very important to try and settle into a rhythm rather than try and go for audacious overtakes. But I don't think Ismail Fassi cares, because he's getting close to the back of Max Wiesel. Not quite close enough, and again, that's just the power of the DRS train. It's so difficult to overtake your rivals when you're caught in that train.
Yes, because not only is obviously the car in front of you has got the DRS, so getting an overtake is going to be extremely difficult, but you know, if you go for a dive and it doesn't quite work out, the car behind you is not too far behind either, so you know, if Fassi goes for a big dive bomb, Bruford, Baena, Parnell, who knows how many cars could get ahead of him, so it's not the greatest for us. We want to see drivers going for these fantastic moves from far back, but we've got to be we've got to be realistic. They're all on equal performance cars. They're extremely close in how equal the drivers are. Only obviously difference in the setups might determine who's quicker in the corners, who's quicker in the straight lines. At this point of the race, you're not going to gain anything going for the banzai moves. It's better just to sit back, wait and see how the situation goes. Make sure that if you can, then keep your battery at a nice high level, and if you can just do something slightly different with the tyres, if you can make them last a bit longer, try and pull off that overcut so you've got fresh tyres in the end of the race. If you can't, think about pitting earlier on just to try and force some moves from the rest of the field. It's all about strategy at this point. As soon as the first pit stops happen, that is normally when you get the crazy moves occurring in F1 League racing and of course F1 esports.
And we're beginning to see on lap number 8, Rumba Juniors slightly reeling in Tom Manley. I'm going to bring up the telemetry just so I can check the ERS levels. Rumba Junior is actually better off. He's got 51% in the battery. Tom Manley only got 36, so he's in a good position at the moment. As we've got yellow flags, that's Xander Van Dyken going for a spin. He's into the gravel at turn number 2 there. He's been able to rejoin the circuit. There must have been some sort of contact, I think, with Jack West, because you can see there's a big gap between P12 and P13. So I think something has gone wrong there. And the stewards could be a little bit busy tonight if there was some contact. Jack West, of course, been moving so fast up the order. He's up, he started in 19th. He's now up 6 places and into 13th position. But you know, I don't really know what happened between himself and Van Dyken. So I think we'll see some clips on Twitter. And I know that these two, they can be civil with each other. I think they're in a few group chats as well, and they're both quite active in them. So hopefully there's no bad blood there. But one thing that we do know at the moment is that Xander Van Dyken, he's not having a good night tonight.
No, he's not, and we don't know whether it was contact with Jack West, but he's really not had a good season so far. He's only got 4 points, has Jack. Seems to just keep getting caught in clumsy incidents, unfortunately. It might have been completely unrelated. We might be, blaming him for stuff that he's got no involvement in. He sets the fastest lap of the race because he's absolutely burnt through his battery to get back within DRS range of the car in front. Will Lewis wasn't able to do that, and because of that, we've seen an overtake. Will Lewis down to 15th, Thomas Ronhart up into 14th for Xander Van Dyken. I think realising unless there was a safety car, his chance of getting points in this race was practically naught. He is out of this race. So Van Dyken, our first retirement. We're down to 19 runners, but at the front of the field, pretty much no change. Nothing for them to really worry about. Manley still leading this race, still keeping Pedreño at just about arm's reach. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get someone a bit further back in this train. You know, maybe someone from Soriano and back, if they're going to be one of the drivers in about 6 or 7 laps time, who think, you know what, let's just go for it, put the medium tyres on and try to do something different. If you follow the driver in on the same lap, you're really putting a lot of confidence in the fact that you can overtake on track. If you're in a DRS train, we've seen it's basically impossible at this point in the race, barring a big tyre difference or a big ERS difference, and that could come to the fore in the final stages, of course.
Yeah, we're on lap number 9, headed on towards lap number 10. We've still got the majority of this race left to go. If you are enjoying tonight, make sure you do leave a like on the stream and give a subscribe to WOR. It is much appreciated. We're seeing a little bit of a breakaway from the top 5 to the rest of the pack. Mirko Soriano seemingly struggling to keep up with the pace of Jake Benham and co. Ahead of him, Jake Benham is getting quite close to the back of Georges Nader, and he's got plenty of ERS to burn through. 80% in that Mercedes, and he's owned and Georges Nader's got half that. He's on 40%, so it's not looking good for the Haas man, and already you can see the pressure is being applied, and it's going to be very difficult to overtake. But given they've got that teammate advantage down at Mercedes, you would have to think that there is going to be some team games at play. We'll have to wait and see. As off the exit of turn number 9, Jake Benham is using the battery. He's got a good run on the back of the Haas car into the braking zone, where maybe on the last game he could have gone for a dive bomb. It's a lot more difficult on this new F122 layout, and he's going to have to sit back for the time being. But you do get the feeling Jake Benham is going to add another one to his hit list very, very soon here.
Yeah, you know, of course, last time out he made contact with Alfie Butcher on the final lap. He'll be hoping that that is not the case. Nader's having a good race in front of him at the moment, but we saw his race pace just tail off towards the end in Monza, so it'll be interesting to see whether that is the case here. You said it's an advantage having two of your teams up there, as I believe that's Dr. Vinen, who's had a spin coming out of a final corner. You say it's an advantage to have your teammate up. Period. You don't want to be the second car in that team when you're this close to another one. Maybe that's why Benno is trying to get past Nader to see whether he can attack Uppbeat later on. We've had an attack further down the field. Wiesel drops out of DRS. Well, Tarabuki, sorry, drops outside of DRS range. And he also drops behind Max Wiesel. That is the Aston Martin up in towards the top 7. We're seeing a few more mistakes now, and we're starting to see a few more splits in this pack.
Yeah, we're about a third of the way through in this race at the moment. Drivers know that this is a race of attrition, so it's going to be very difficult to keep everything in check. Jake Benham a little bit further back than he would have liked to be on Georges Nader in towards the braking zone at turn number 10. I think he's just going to try and settle into this rhythm, stay behind for the time being. We've seen Valentin Bruffer lose the position to Iker Baenya. I don't believe that Bruffer actually had any DRS, which was why it was so easy for the Spaniard in his home Grand Prix. It's also the home Grand Prix of Pedreño, and he's running very nicely in P2 at the moment. This is a young up-and-coming star in F1 esports, and I wouldn't be surprised as when he turns 16 and when he's old enough to compete in challenges and such. I do think he's going to be a driver to watch out for, and I think we could see him in F1 esports very, very soon. The same goes for Tom Manley as well. This is a very talented driver, of course a champion in WOR on the Xbox side of things in Season 12. And I'd love to see these two having some scraps in esports in the future, but I think in WOR is a perfect subservient for it at the moment, as Ismail Fassi looking on the inside of Andrei Tarabuki in towards turn number 4. Has the Alfa Romeo driver got the run? He's going to have to look to the outside at the next left-hander. It's going to be so difficult through here. Has he got the grip? Has he got the speed? He's going to still run wheel to wheel. Both of these guys completely depleting their battery. Ismail Fassi not able to overtake Andrei Tarabuki. Has a little bit of a slide through turn number 6 and 7, so he'll have to back off for the time being.
Yeah, and look what happened. Those two attacking each other. Tarabuki now 9/10 of a second behind Max Wiesel all of a sudden. Bianca Lila back in for his second stop. He's going to use that set of hards to the end of the race. That's a big slide for Tarabuki coming out of turn number 10, and this is going to be the opportunity, I think, for Ismail Fassi all the way around the outside at turn number 12. And Fassi is a lot of ERS, and Andrei Tarabuki, who also doesn't have a lot of ERS, is going to have the dip down to of just how powerful the drag reduction system is on this circuit. Seeing that he's not closing in too much at the start, is Tarabuki going to go for a move down the inside? He's behind for now. I was expecting him to have closed up a lot quicker than he did there, so maybe Tarabuki just struggling a bit with a setup in terms of the straight line speed, but again, this is another split in the field, and Max Wiesel now sort of on his own in that 7th place.
Max Wiesel, he's in no man's land at the moment. He's got no one to help him, but he's got no pressure from behind, so he's going to have a quiet race, I would assume, until the end of this stint. I'm seeing people talking about the stuttering issues, and I think we can apologise for that one. I'm not seeing any drop frames on OBS at the moment, so I think there might be some internet issues which I can't really fix because I'm at university now, and of course there might be some issues with YouTube itself, so maybe try and refresh your browsers, and that might work, but of course we will try our best to get these issues fixed for next week. Not really much we can do right now, so at the moment we can only apologise, but we'll get back into the action here. Tom Manley still leading Pedreño. We saw Jan Altmaier getting close to the back of the McLaren car last time by, and you see he's got a full battery of ERS to try and use and overtake very, very soon. Just not enough, is it, for the time being? Liam Parnell's coming into the pit lane. He started on a set of the hard compounder tyres, so it'll be interesting to see what tyres he now straps on, and it is the mediums. I wonder if those can go to the end. We're nearing the halfway point, and of course the you actually get put in, because of course you're lighter on fuel, so there's less load into the tyres. So Liam Parnell makes of that strategy, and I wonder if that's going to spark some other drivers to come into the box. We'll have to wait and see. On lap number 14, Tom Manley still leading from Pedreño and Jan Ortmeier in P3.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this might be a bit of a tester run here, because Liam Parnell, even though he's in the, he's in F1 Esports, in the senior Red Bull team, you've got Tom Manley in the AlphaTauri, who is also part of the Parnell racing squad. No surprises for guessing who runs that one. So Manley doing a pretty decent job at the moment in that AlphaTauri, and we'll see how things go. I think you will be able to get the mediums, the 20 laps in this race, as Parnell is trying to do. Not sure that's the best thing. I think lap 14, probably the earliest I would have expected anyone to come in for a set of medium tyres, and there we go. Tom Manley is into the pits in this race. This could be a crucial undercut. If he breaks DRS here, this could be fantastic. Manley into the pits, Soriano also into the pits as well. Should come out comfortably in free air. So it is now Pedreño leading from Uppbeat and Nader.
And thank you to Matthew Roberts for the 79p donation in the live chat there. Very much appreciated. Of course, that is actually, I believe, WOR Matthew. So very, very big thanks for that one, as we're seeing yellow flags at the moment appearing. And I think, who's that going slowly? Is that... I'm not too sure if there's a little bit of lag on my side of things here. Oh, it's Tino. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I completely blanked out as I was reading the super chat coming through. But yeah, can we get £4.21, please?
Yeah, Tino out of the race, and I think Tom Manley would have taken a big sharp intake of breath when he saw that yellow flag, because if that had caused a safety car, that would have been an absolute disaster for him. He'd have dropped probably behind, the likes of Fassi, Tarabuki and Baena. But yeah, we'll see now whether anyone else has come into the pits. Well, he's going to come into the pits. He is gaining on those in front of him and gaining on the leaders as well. So now that he's got his tyres up to temperature, I think Manley will be safe for staying in the net lead of this race. The crucial question is going to be, as Pedreño dives his way in towards the pits, the crucial question is going to be, has he broken that 1 second window?
Well, let's wait and see. Let's watch Tom Manley as he heads through the final sector now. He's got all the clear air in the world at the moment. There's a lot of traffic down in pit lane. I wonder if any of these guys are going to cause each other's issues, as here comes Tom Manley down the start-finish straight. Pedreño has just left his box, and Tom Manley now is going to be clear. He will be ahead, but how much will that gap be? And of course, don't forget, the tyre warm-up on this game is dreadful, so Pedreño is going to have a very difficult time of keeping up to Tom Manley at the moment. He's already 1.3 seconds off the back of the AlphaTauri car, and now Tom Manley has got a massive advantage here. Pedreño's got to get those up to temperature. Mirko Soriano is now into P3, a net P3 at this point, ahead of Ismail Fassi. Of course, we're yet to see Jan Ortmeier, George Nader and Jake Benham coming into the box. And I wonder what the story is actually going to be down at Mercedes, who is going to get the priority. Of course, Jan Ortmeier is ahead on circuit. They can't box at the same time, so I think it's got to be sooner rather than later for these guys to come into the pits.
Yeah, I think Uppbeat, he's burned up a lot of battery on this lap, and in fact, he's decided to stay out, and so has Jake Benham. Oh. Interesting, I'd have thought one of them would have come into the pits at least on that lap a bit earlier on. One of them probably choosing to go a bit longer, but no, looks like both of the Mercedes boys are doing something different. This is obviously something that they will have checked out. This is obviously something that they will have tested, and will give them much better tyres later on. But we've got a Mercedes 1-2 for now. They're going for a bit of the glory run. We'll wait and see if this works out okay for them. It's worked out brilliantly for Tom Manley. You've got to say he's 1.6 seconds clear of Pedreño at the moment, who looks to have retained that net second position for now. Nader slotting in between Pedreño and Soriano, as he was doing earlier on. Now he's got to set the lap of his dreams to make sure he's in a nice position for when Benham and Uppbeat do eventually decide to come into the pits. And of course, neither Benham or George Nader now have that DRS, as we've got a yellow flag further back, and that is Baena and Tarabuki.
Oh dear.
Off the circuit at turn number 3.
Oh dearie me, what has happened here? I wonder if there's any damage on either car. Now, indeed, Tarabuki, he's just come out of the pit lane last lap, and now he's got no front wing. So I think his race is over and done with. Really unfortunate that it's ended this way for him. He's going to be able to limp back to the pit lane. Of course, you're not allowed to retire on circuit, so he's got to have this sort of slow lap round where it's going to be really upsetting for him. And I do feel for him at this point. And I think Andrew Tarabuki will also be quite annoyed at that one too, as we saw Mirko Soriano get close to the back of Georges Nader. We're finally seeing some more pit stops. It is Jake Benham coming in for Mercedes, so Jan Otmir staying out at least one more lap. Valentin Bruffer has also come into the pit lane. We'll see where they come out in relation to the likes of Tom Manley and Ruben Pedreño, and already they are miles up the road. Where's Georges Nader going to come out in comparison to Benham? It's going to be very tight between the pair of them, as the tyre warm-up is not going to be helping Jake in any way, shape or form. As around the outside at turn number 3, can Georges Nader try and make this work? The Haas car being squeezed to the outside. He has to look to the inside, as now into the braking zone at turn number 4. Jake Benham's done a fantastic job of keeping him behind, and Mirko Soriano also being pushed into this battle, trying to look to the outside now of the Haas car. They can't quite do it. They're all going to remain in that P6, P7 and P8 slots where they were, but Jake Benham, he's doing a masterful job of defending this position, and as those tyres come up to temperature, you get the feeling he is going to be able to stay ahead of Georges Nader, but of course 3 seconds is the gap to himself and Ruben Pedreño. He's going to have no DRS down the main straight, and he could be a sitting duck here. Meanwhile, I'm just seeing on the minimap, Jan Otmir staying out another lap.
Yeah, this is, you know, a bit more of a conventional strategy from Otmir to perhaps what you would expect to see about 19 laps on a set of the hard tyres. We do normally see the reverse on this game, where drivers do a lot more laps on the medium tyres than they do on the hards, but Otmir, you know, clearly choosing to stay out at the moment. If he pits now, he should still come out ahead of Jake Benham with fresher tyres. Will probably be, though, outside of DRS range of Pedreño, but he's going to have the tyres to get some moves done. And talking of getting some moves done, Nader tried as he might on that lap, never really quite got far enough alongside, I don't think, in towards turn number 3. So I don't think we'll see any issues with Benham, you know, just squeezing over to the left-hand side of the track as much as he was allowed to. Holds on to that position for now. His tyres will be nicely up to temperature. They've got to see if they can work together to try and catch up to the likes of Pedreño, and then possibly, of course, Otmir and Manley as well. Otmir, one of only 3 drivers that is yet to be into the pits. We haven't seen Ron Howe into the pits yet. We haven't seen Will Lewis either, and this is something I've seen often from Will Lewis. If he's had a bit of a bad qualifying, he'll go very long into stunt number 1, because if they get a safety car, he's right back into this race.
Can't know what, man. Finally into the pit lane after 19 laps of running here. And we'll see what he can do, where he's going to come out as well in relation to all the other drivers. Surely it's going to be behind Mirko Soriano in that P8 position. Valentin Bruffer, the first driver of the day to get a time penalty. Thomas Ronhart and Will Lewis both staying out on circuit. Tom Manley is going to come across and overtake Jan Otmir, of course, very much understandably. Where is the Dutchman going to emerge? Will he be ahead of Jake Benham? This will be a big story, as in towards the first corner they go. Jan Otmir going to lose that position, but he slots himself tactically, I'd say, ahead of Georges Nader, and he's going to try his best to hold up the Haas. So it's going to be another lap where George has got to try and overtake, and it's like a brick wall behind these Mercedes cars, and Mirko Soriano's oil trying to look in the action here as in towards turn number 5 they head. Can Georges Nader go up the inside? He can't quite this time by, and again he's going to have to spend another lap behind the driver, heating up their tyres, and once they get into that operating window, he's going to be left for dead. It's not looking good for the Haas man.
No, it's not. Although, if he wants to get a sideline in drawing the diffuser on the Mercedes, now might be the time to do it, because he's had plenty of knowledge of that, as Mirko Soriano almost thinks about a move round the outside in towards turn number 10. Can he get it on the switchback? We saw Fassi and Tarabuki try this one earlier on. All they're doing, though, is allowing the Mercedes to pull away, and I think for that move, he is going to slot in behind both of them. Burns up quite a lot of their battery, though. Soriano has got a tiny bit more, so even though we've got the Haas with the DRS, I wouldn't write off this overtake happening towards turn number 1. They did just get a better exit on his fresher tyres, and that could be where Soriano starts to struggle. He was one of the first drivers to come into the pits, obviously for a set of the mediums, and now he's been in traffic for a bit. They're not going to be too hot, but in the next few laps, we could start to see him struggle a bit more. Heading towards the top of the order, Ruben Pedreño's got 25% more ERS than Tom Manley, and he has really closed that gap down. Very interesting indeed. It's been a fantastic few laps on those fresh mediums from the Spaniard. It's game on for the race victory again.
Well, maybe he was trying to hide his pace ever so slightly in that first stint, and now we get to see the true colours of Pedreño. He's got the DRS as well. He's in that 1 second window that he needs. If he waits too long, though, it's going to allow for the likes of Jarno Opmeer and Jake Benham in behind to get closer. And, of course, with the fresher tyres by 2 laps and then 4 laps to Jarno Opmeer, it is going to be very hard to defend from the pair of them. So do not write out the Mercedes drivers at the moment. Will Lewis still leading this race. He's not come into the pit lane just yet. I'm a little bit confused as to why not, but I guess he's having a good time. He's leading a WOR race, so fair play to Will. And I hope we can see him at the front a little bit more often, but of course with an actual strategy to his name. Jarno Opmeer getting close to the back of his teammate Jake Benham into the braking zone at turn number 1. He's made his intentions clear here. He certainly could have gone for the overtake, but he knows that there is a bigger picture here. There are bigger fish to fry, and that is of course Tom Manley and Rupert Pedreño. He needs to work with his teammate here and not battle him so that they can get up to P1 and P2 and potentially fight for a win. We got a yellow flag. That is Jack West going around, but he's already been involved in a potential incident earlier on, and now he's had a spin. It's not looking like it's been a good day for him, and interesting way to get back onto the circuit. I wonder if there's some wheel issues at play there.
Yeah, obviously, it's just one of the things the drivers have to cope with. In real life, you got, possible random punctures, issues with a car. Here they have to cope with, lag, glitches and software issues. It is just one of those things. Good news for everyone that has gone on the medium tyres. Lundy has just finished a 19-lap stint on them. He came in, of course, on lap number 1 after an incident earlier on, so there should be no such issues with punctures towards the end of the race, as the last to first challenge continues for Thomas Ronhaar. He's not going to get first place. Do not write him out for some points, though. He's just got ahead of Valentin Brothers. Sensation, Thomas Ronhaar, Challengers champion, Pro Exhibition champion. He is now up in towards 11th place. As again, Jarno Opmeer closes on the back of Jake Benham. They're both very sensible drivers. Jake, extremely experienced, 2-time WOR champion. Jarno Opmeer, I don't need to tell you guys, 2-time esports champion. They're not going to battle and hold each other up at the moment. As well off track there goes Jake Benham. I thought for a second that was going to be to let Jarno Opmeer through, but clearly not. I was about to say they need to work together. So there we go.
Yeah, very, very scary moment, I'd say, for Jake Benham. I've been having some lag issues this race, and I've seen drivers just go straight off the circuit, and I thought that was one of those instances again, but apparently not. Jake Benham just not having a good time of it today. We'll see what he can do, as they are losing time, unfortunately, to the likes of Pedreño and Manley, and I kind of think maybe if the 2 Mercedes drivers want to fight it out, I think Jarno Opmeer should be let through. And if they're actually, because I mean these guys are very good friends, we see the co-op career, they are likely going to be in a Discord call with one another. I think if they're talking strategy, Jarno Opmeer really should be let through and use those superior tyres at this point. 4 laps fresher than Rupert Pedreño, 5 laps fresher than Tom Manley. If he has the pace, he should go for it, and he's closing down the main straight, and there it is. He's going to look to the inside line of Jake Benham in towards the first corner. Not really much of a fence from the young Englishman, and it is going to be Jarno Opmeer up into 4th position. Now, will they try and start this hunt of Pedreño and Manley up front? Or are they going to be scrapping it out for the final spot on the podium?
They've got to work together. They've got to start the hunt, I think, at the moment. They've got to see what they can do. Jarno, I've seen him do this before, close gaps that I thought were uncatchable. 3.5 seconds in 10 laps. It's only 3.5 tenths a lap. I say only. You've got to catch that up. You've got to make the overtake. We've seen how close this entire field is, so it's going to be a tough job for Jarno, but I think if anyone can do it, he certainly can. Jake will just be trying to stay in contact with him at the moment. He knows if he stays behind Jarno, the chances of him getting attacked from Mirko Soriano behind are pretty much nothing. What I haven't noticed in all this is Ismail Fassi's done an incredible job to almost get onto the back of Soriano, and he's dragged Wiesel and Parnell along with him as fantastic battles for the final podium place, possibly. Fantastic battles for the final points places. And let's not forget that fantastic battle for the lead either. Manley in 2nd place at the moment. Pedreño in 3rd. He's just saving his battery. He's not bothered whatsoever about going for the I think, before he goes for the move in this race. And let's not forget Will Lewis. If he gets involved in this battle, that could change everything.
Yeah, Will Lewis still on circuit. with 24 lap old hard compound of tyre, and it kind of begs the question, why did these guys pit so early when they could have done so much more laps on the set of the hards? I mean, the mediums will be in better working condition right at the end, and it also will probably provide some better racing. So interesting to note there, but I guess each to their own. I mean, if they want to pit as early as they want, they can, and they can make these tyres last. It is certainly going to be difficult for the likes of Manley, Soriano, and Liam Parnell. Parnell was actually the first driver to come into the pit lane, and his mediums are already 11 laps old. He's still got, what's that, nine laps left in this session, so I think that he's not going to be in the best condition towards the end of this race, and it's going to be probably easy pickings, I'd say, for Thomas Ronhaar. So we do need to watch out for the tyres. Pretty big wear, high wear around this track, and I'd imagine in the latter parts of this race it's not going to get much better for them.
No, they'll be handling like an oil tanker, I think, in the final few laps. Some of these cars, dirty air from the car in front. Turn 3, turn number 4, turn number 12 being where they really do start to struggle with the tyres, so that's going to be bad news for Parnell. But if he stays within DRS range of Max Wiesel, at least he's got something to defend with. If he keeps a nice amount of battery, he's on 14% at the moment, so might need to do a tiny bit more saving. If he keeps that higher up, he might have a chance of still hanging on to what would be his first points of this season since the round, I believe, at Silverstone for Liam Parnell. Finished 9th place at Silverstone, so it would be good to see the German driver get some decent points in this race. I'm not sure I agree with you about drivers should have stayed out further on the hard tyres. I think we know the mediums are a very nice tyre on this game. That, you know, you'd drive around them all day if you could, but they will wear at some point. There's going to be no issues with them getting towards the end in terms of punctures. I think for the likes of possibly everyone apart from Parnell, maybe crucially Manley, Pedreño, West and De Capua, they're not going to have too many severe pace issues either. I just wonder when Pedreño is going to go for this move. He's a lot closer this lap than he has been on the previous ones. Is he going to do it now? Ooh. While maybe Manley's a bit distracted from Will Lewis? Or is he going to wait until later on? Well, he's using his battery. He's going to pull out the slipstream. I think this is going to answer our question. Going towards the outside line. There wasn't a big gap there. Just enough, though, for a McLaren. And that is Ruben Pedreño in towards the net lead of this race. Now, will Manley fight back instantly, or will he wait until the final few laps? While these two have been, not really battling too much, they're working together well, though, because the gap between them and Uppbeat has actually grown towards 4.4 seconds. So I think this says it is a two-way fight for the win, but who is going to come out on top?
Yeah, I don't believe we're going to see Uppbeat, Benham and Nader fighting at the front of the order. I think it's a two-horse race at the moment with a bunny on circuit, I suppose. Will Lewis starting all the way down the order. I believe it's like 16th or 17th. He's now up into 15th. I can actually bring it up. He's up 15 places, so he started in 16th, and he is now just taking his time as long as he can. I mean, you have to stop at some point in this race, and he hasn't stopped at all. So I wonder when he is actually going to box, and surely it's got to be for a set of the softs. I think he's just having a good time out in front here, but I don't believe Ruben Pedreño is going to be too happy at the sight of the Alfa Romeo right in front of him. He is going to get DRS though, headed down onto the main straight, so that's actually going to help him in comparison to his battle with Tom Manley. Is now headed down towards turn number 1. Will Lewis, he's defending, he's using his battery on the inside line. Will Lewis fighting for the win here, but he's not going to be able to do that just yet. Well, he's got to pit at some point. Ruben Pedreño is able to slip through Tom Manley. He's got to go the long way around. Valentin Bruffa retiring in the pit lane, over and under for Tom Manley, and he's made that move stick down the inside. Will Lewis has been cleared, but a gap has been formed between Pedreño and Manley. So I think there might be some strong words in that AlphaTauri cockpit.
Yeah, I think it was crucial that Pedreño got the move done when he did, even more so for Manley. If he'd have been stuck behind Will Lewis for this entire part of the lap, he'd have probably made the move in towards turn 10, but he will have been already more than a second behind, and we know that's going to be pretty tough to recover from Manley. So, good news for him and good news for us in terms of a race win battle. Manley is able to stay in contact with Pedreño. He is on the older tyres and has got about 30% less ERS at the moment. Will Lewis, he'd love to try a zero-stop strategy, but in a dry race, and barring an absolute miracle, it is going to be a dry race, you have to use two different compounds of Pirelli tyres. So I think very shortly,
Finally.
Will Lewis will be diving into the pits for a set of soft tyres and getting the fastest lap. And even if you are in the top 10, there is no fastest lap point here in WOR. It is just a bit of a glory one, maybe, for Will in the final few laps of this race. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen now between Uppbeat and Benham. Both of them have got plenty of ERS. Benham didn't defend too much earlier on in the race. Is he going to attack the arguable number one driver in the team and get himself on the podium? He is the lead car in the championship between those two.
Yes, that sort of just, that kind of buries the question, where does the priority lie between the pair of them? Who thinks that they've got the better pace? And who is going to go for this win? Well, not win, but for this final spot on the podium? Or is it going to be another driver in behind? We've seen the train begin to form. Liam Parnell is now a part of it, and he's back in 9th. We've got Soriano, Fassi, Wiesel all following in the back. And then a Haas car lurking in the shadows. And we've got Max Wiesel. I think there was a little bit of a glitch on my side of things there. He went up into 6th and then all the way down back into 8th. But as I was saying, Thomas Ronhaar, he's got himself in this train. He's got much fresher tyres than all the drivers in front of him. I wonder if he's able to make the move stick. We'll have to wait and see. We've only got a few laps left in this race. 4 to go at the line. And it's going to be lap number 30 of 33 for Pedreño, Tom Manley in P2. This is the battle for the lead of the race, and Tom Manley is closing that gap in towards the first corner. He looks to the inside line. Rune Pedreño not offering up any defence. I don't think Tom particularly wanted to go for it this time by, but it's just making his intentions clear. He wants to go for it soon. And when are we going to see it from Tom Manley? I'm excited here.
Yeah, so am I, and Pedreño's going to be thinking, do I want to be leading coming out of the final corner on lap 32? Do I really want to be in the lead of this race? Would I rather be in second place? And if I am going to be leading, how much ERS do I want to try and defend in towards turn number 1? This is all what's going through their minds at the moment. This little, tactical tennis that they're playing between the two of them. Let's not forget, if we go back to Bahrain, we had Lucas Blakely in a similar situation in the McLaren. Let Thomas Ronhaar through. In the end, Ronhaar was able to claim the victory in that one, but that is how much Blakely wanted to avoid being at the front of this race, and we know DRS is pretty powerful here as well, so things are staying as they are. They're not further back though. Thomas Ronhaar up and towards 9th place. He's got ahead of Liam Parnell, so he's able to make the moves work with the big tyre advantage. We'll see if he can work his way past Wiesel as well, because the advantage there is a much, much slimmer one. On towards lap number 31 we go. Pedreño's got a tiny bit of a bigger lead here, this time heading onto the start-finish straight. So I think, again, Manley's going to close in, but not quite get close enough for a move at this stage of the race. And I don't think he's too bothered about a move at this stage of the race.
You're absolutely right. I think he has just got to bide his time a little bit longer. I'd say probably lap number 33 is when he goes for it. And Will Lewis sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. If there's any actually shenanigans in it in this top 10 fight, and someone has an incident, Will Lewis is actually going to be on for a top 10 finish and a points paying position. Even with that crazy strategy that saw him go about 29 laps on the tyre that he started on. And so fair play to him, he's made it work. He's way off the back of anyone else, so I don't think he really cares about where he finishes at this point. But I think some points, or at least 1 point, will be a nice bonus for him. Let's have a look at Thomas Ronhaar as he closes to the back of Max Wiesel down this DRS straight. It's pretty short through here, so it's actually pretty difficult to make an overtake stick. He's not able to get by on the German Aston Martin runner, but actually through turn number 11 and 12 he's got to run down the inside. Can he try and make this one stick? Slight bit of wheel bang between the pair of them, but there it is. Ronhaar up into 8th, starting from last position. He's up 12 places in this Grand Prix. He's out a fantastic race today. Tom Manley closing once again to the back of Rune Pedreño, but once again, Luke, it's been the same story for the past 3 laps. He's going to stay in behind.
Yeah, certainly. He's not too bothered about the moment. I won't be surprised if we see something different happen. And talking about different, Needham and Benham getting very close together. Needham's off the circuit. He's going to come back on in front of everyone. And Fassi and Ronhaar are having their own little battle. It's been a very interesting, very interesting 10 seconds for the Haas cars here. Needham down towards 10th. Fassi in 6th for now. Ronhaar down the inside at turn number 4. That's the outside line for turn number 5. All the way round. Does the esports driver try it? He should have the traction here on the spot. Yes, Ronhaar up in towards 6th place for now. Let's see what happens here between Pedreño and Manley. Pedreño's got a bit wide out of turn number 10. Manley in there behind with less ERS. Will that make the difference? Can Pedreño hold on for the victory?
Well, with just one lap left to go at the line here, it has been a fantastic battle between Rune Pedreño and Tom Manley. All the action kicking off further back behind. These two have been cruising up the circuit, and now it's all going to come to this. Rune Pedreño has got a sustainable lead. Tom Manley just can't get close enough down in towards the first corner. At the braking zone, they meet. Rune Pedreño will be fending off Tom Manley, and that could have been his last proper opportunity. So I'm a bit worried actually for Tom Manley. I don't think he can go for it anymore unless he tries it down in towards turn number 10. We'll have to wait and see as in towards now the first sector they go. What a race it has been today. We've seen plenty of action and battles throughout the entirety of it for a circuit that once again doesn't always produce the most exciting races in real life. You made that point earlier that typically tracks like this actually make for great league races, and Rune Pedreño, this win has got to be a lot more special if he does end up with it. Tom Manley, he's done so well to keep onto the back of Pedreño, who has just had the better pace today at his home Grand Prix. It has been a fantastic job from the young Spaniard, a driver who is well deserving of a future esports seat. As in towards now the final chicane, Tom Manley's given up on this attack, as off the exit now of the final corner, Rune Pedreño is going to come across the line, and it is going to be the win in Spain. His home Grand Prix victory. Rune Pedreño takes victory from Tom Manley in P2. P3 for Jarno Opmeer. He was able to fend off Jake Benham in behind. Soriano ended up in 5th. 6th for Speed Thomas Ronhard today. A great showing from him. Max Wiesel in 7th. 8th for Fassi. 9th for Georges Nader. And rounding out the points is Liam Parnell. Will Lewis in 11th. 12th for De Capua. Bianca Lila 13th. Jack West 14th. And rounding out the grid is Carter Lundy. The DNS were today Valentin Bruffer, Andrei Tarabuki, Ikabaina, Tino Nakrinen and Xander Van Dyken. But what a race for Rune Pedreño.
Yeah, what a race. Controlled it brilliantly. He had one opportunity to take the lead of this race. Manley tried to send him round the outside. In the end, the gap was big enough. Pedreño made it work and managed his ERS so well as well. I mean, let's not forget, we were thinking he was 1.5 seconds behind Manley. Didn't seem to have the pace in stint number 1. We were wondering whether he'd be able to make it work. Why did we doubt Pedreño? Superb talent and a superb victory. Another second place for Tom Manley, his 3rd of the season. You've got to think, though, he keeps plugging away, that victory has got to come again soon. You've got to think at some point a victory will work for Jarno Opmeer. Did something different on the strategy. Didn't quite pay off in the end, but still, another podium for him keeps him in contention.
Absolutely. And we're going to see now the podium celebrations as Jarno Opmeer in a McLaren suit. Of course, that's Rune Pedreño's in-game avatar. And fair play to him today. There's 2 Jarnos on the podium. That's very nice to see. But it is the McLaren on top. And we saw a McLaren dominating at the beginning of the season. Maybe we're seeing history repeating itself like a ripple. We'll have to wait and see. But he's going to be able to spray the champagne as a winner of his home Grand Prix. Tom Manley did very well to get P2 in the end. And then Jarno Opmeer was in 3rd, of course. And I think there was just such a big gap between the top 2. And I mentioned it in qualifying as well. They were the clear-cut top 2. And that has been carried on through into the race. Here's your full classification pending any stewards' inquiries. Rune Pedreño does take the win. Tom Manley P2. 3rd for Jarno Opmeer. 4th for Jake Benham. Mirko Soriano in 5th. And Thomas Ronhard in 6th. Starting from P20 today. Max Wiesel in 7th, 8th for Ismail Fassi, Georges Nader 9th, and then Liam Parnell in 10th in that final points paying position. Will Lewis 11th, De Capua 12th, 13th for Jack West, Bianca Lila 14th, and then Carter Lundy, the last of your finishers with the fastest lap on the final lap as well. He finishes in 15th. Valentin Bruffer, Andrei Tarabuki, Ikabaina, Tino Nakarinen, and Xander Van Dyken all failed to see the finish today. But that brings us to an end of what was a very exciting race, Luke.
Yes, certainly. Kind of, went the way we see league races going at the moment, isn't it? First, it was a bit quieter. We still did get some moves. I think Ronhard making some moves, and also Wiesel and Tarabuki had a fantastic battle as well. But yeah, the second stint, it all kicked off. Pedreño doing fantastically well just to keep Manley at arm's length. The opposite situation of what we saw in stint number 1, where it was Manley just keeping Pedreño far enough away. Pedreño was able to do that to Manley in stint number 2, and then, you know, further back behind, Uppbeat finishing in 3rd place, getting ahead of his teammate on the fresher tyres. And we saw, you know, Ronhal working his way up the field. Nader almost managing to pull off a move on Jake Benham. He ended up going onto the gravel trap, so we'll see whether there's any comeback from that and any stewards' inquiries from that one as well. But yeah, fantastic race from that one, and a fantastic performance from Pedreño to get his first victory ever in WOR.
Absolutely, and I think what a way to do it. It is home Grand Prix. I'd be very pleased if I were him, and hopefully we can hear from him in the interview rooms. And I'm actually just going to ask you now, Luke, is there anyone in that room that we can drag in now?
No, there isn't at the moment. Unfortunately, we've heard from Ruben. He says he can't make it, so such a shame that we won't be able to hear from him. We haven't heard from Tom Manley, who does normally join us, to be fair, or Jarno Uppbeat. So we'll just wait a bit longer and see if any of our top three do want to join us. Well, our 2nd and 3rd place drivers, I should say, do want to join us.
Yeah, I would love to see. I would love to hear from them, and I'd also love to hear from everyone in the live chat. If you did enjoy this race, please do let us know and give us your opinions on how that one went for your favourite driver. My favourite driver, and we all have one. He went 29 laps in this race on a set of the hard compounder tyre. Very interesting strategy from Will Lewis today, but fair play to him. And I hope everyone else they enjoyed it, because at the end of the day, this is what we are here for. We are here for your entertainment. And I saw there was a lot of talking in the live chat, and it's wonderful to see everyone getting involved in the live chat and just talking about the race. It was really fun today.
Yeah, certainly. It's great to see fans getting engaged by everyone, supporting different drivers, their own and some of the others. But yeah, brilliant job by everyone in this race. Well, Lewis, it was worth trying something different. As I said, if he did the same as everyone else, chances were he was going to get no points whatsoever. And almost with the carnage that we saw in the final few laps, perhaps at one bit, if he'd have seen that, he might have wondered whether he would be able to get any points. But yeah, soft tyres, rarely see them used at Spain on previous F1 games. Never mind on this one, where the hard medium seems to be the fantastic strategy on every single circuit. But yeah, very intriguing, intriguing race, especially with how much pace Pedreño and Manley seem to have over the rest of the field. It is something that you rarely see. We saw it last season here, actually, though, with Pragcic and Lee on that occasion, just seeming to have a bit of a margin, because I was expecting Uppbeat to be able to perhaps drag everyone else along towards that battle. Of course, the 2 cars he was catching, one of them had the DRS, so maybe that just made it a bit too hard for Jarno to close that gap.
Absolutely, and I'm really excited to see what the rest of these guys can do. I'm just seeing as well, there's been some comments about the lag. I do apologise. I think it is sort of just unfixable for me. I'll try everything that I can to fix this, and maybe I can buy some new PC parts. But I'm a student now, I can't be spending money like that. And is there anyone else?
Just like your student loan. You've got plenty of money. Now's the time.
That's my rent, actually. I mean, yeah, but maybe I can dip into it or something. But I can finally see we've got someone in the interview room, so I'll bring us over to the interview screen and we can get talking to the man who finished in P2 today, Tom Manley. I'll just drag him in now. And there we are. Tom, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Alright, hello. So let's get your thoughts on your qualifying performance today. Started on the front row and you were in a great position. You started on pole, so talk us through your lap, which set a 1 minute 15.8. That must have been one that left you very sweaty at the end.
Yeah, quality was good. I mean, the track was ramping up a lot. Times got a lot faster. Like, you could look at the evolution between Q1 and Q3, but managed to set a good lap right at the end, which is the crucial thing. So yeah, it's a good lap.
Fair play too. I mean, it was a very intense lap, and myself and Luke were actually so shocked at it, because we were thinking we're not going to see anyone get into the 1 minute 15s. We completely skipped out the 1 minute 15.9s from you, went straight away into the 1 minute 15.8. So really well done. Let's talk about your race and that battle with Rune Pedreño. Let's get your thoughts towards the end of that one, where of course you were able to get close, but just not close enough.
Yeah, I shouldn't have pit the lap before because I had really bad tyres at the end, and I was hoping to gap him, which I did, but then just didn't have the tyres. And then at the end, he's much faster, and he navigated Will Lewis a bit better as well, which helped. So in the end, I just didn't manage my ERS or my strategy right. But yeah, good battle at the end.
Absolutely, it was very intense between the pair of you, and I think everyone here is going to give the pair of you credit. But with this result, it is yet again another P2. When are we going to see that win coming out from you?
Hopefully next week.
Fantastic. I would love to see you take the win next week in round number 9. I am going to be rooting for you, but we'll let you get away and enjoy that P2, and just enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next week. So thank you, Tom Manley, for joining us today. Okay, so let's just check. I'm checking on my phone. There's no one else in the interview room at the moment, so I'll bring us back over the scene, and we can talk to you from here. So, Luke, that brings us to the end. It was a very exciting stream, I'd say.
Yeah, it was. Interesting to see different drivers up there now that we've not had Blakely, obviously taking some breaks for esports. We may still see him come up at different points this season. Maybe when the gap starts shrinking a bit in the championship, the Scotsman might be heading towards there as well. But yeah, brilliant to see Manley. He's been up there a few times this season, and Pedreño as well. We always know he's a quick driver, but that's the first time we've seen him really fighting for podiums. And he's ended up getting a brilliant victory there, managing his ERS, proving to be crucial. As Tom said, he just wasn't quite able to manage it in that second stint. I wonder how different things would have been when he went for it in stint number 1. If he'd have been able to hold on to that 1 second gap then, how different things could have been in this race. But ifs and buts and all that, it's in the past now. They'll be focusing on the next race, on next week, heading out there, and just seeing if they can either keep up that form or make amends for this week.
Absolutely, and we do hope to see you all there next week. It's going to be a very fun one. Round number 9, the season is beginning to really get into its stride, and we're seeing the championship picture really begin to form. So we hope that we can see everyone who tuned in today next week. And I think, however, though, that is all we have time for this evening. Make sure you leave a like on this stream. We've already got 107 of them, so it is much appreciated that you are all enjoying this evening. And of course, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's the big red button beneath this beneath the stream. You cannot miss it. It's right below my head there. Make sure you as well follow WOR on Twitter, course, at WOR League, and join our Discord. The link is in the description. You can get all the news front and center over on there. Lastly, you can follow myself on Twitter at DanfieldF1_, and you can follow Luke at LukeEtheridge95. But from us today, it is thank you and good night.